Hello, ladies and gentlemen! Welcome back to the Unified Proving Ground Circuit as we are getting into some hot and contested action here today as we got teams fighting it out with everything on the line for themselves. I'm Travesty. I am joined here with my analyst, as always, the ever so gracious Smats, and we have our first returning guest coming back to us, Osama. Welcome back, man.
Pleasure to be here, guys. Down for some more amateur action.
It's a good time, man. I'm really glad you're here. We got some really good games today as well.
I got one of the best games.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean, hey, talking about the games that we have, Evil Genius Prodigies taking on Maryville. That's our game that we're getting into to start off, and then we have IMT AOE taking on Dare in the second game here on the Academy channel. It's going to be a fun day, gents.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of action today. And then on the other stream as well, we have 2 elimination games. All the teams today are fighting to get into that playoff bracket. 4 teams already there, 4 teams awaiting to see who their opponents will be. And those games are happening tomorrow as well. So it's just a crazy day for League of Legends.
Yeah, and these are elimination games. You know, the games playing here, it's for the last seed for playoffs, so it's do or die for these teams. First game is Maryville versus EG Prodigies. Honestly, these teams probably should have been playing for first in their group, but you gotta just, you know, you're here on this day, and may the better team win.
As Fruit for Thought told us, you don't want to cross Taco Gaming on a Tuesday. And unfortunately, these teams had crossed him on a Tuesday. So, that being said, I do want to take a moment to look at how the bracket is going to look going forward, too. Because you guys pointed out the fact this is elimination. First seed's already decided. Whoever wins this first match here between Maryville and Taco does end up in a spot against 100 Thieves Nets, who got first seed out of their group. That's going to be a very fun show. It's tough.
I don't want to sugarcoat that. That's a tough first draw for the playoffs or whatever team actually makes it there. But there is a pretty big difference regardless. The difference between losing today and losing tomorrow, even if you do lose tomorrow, is Proving Grounds points. And you actually do really need those to get into the main event later on in the spring. So no matter which team you lose to, or if you win all the way and take the upset against 100 Thieves next, definitely important to keep moving on in this tournament.
I want to get those points, start gathering them up, building them up, and I do want to go ahead and highlight the matchups that we have going on through both streams here today. So you can see over on the Unified Live, it is No Team versus Radiance, and then you do see Wildcard taking on Bay State. While over here on the Academy channel, we will have Dare Gaming and Immortals AOE coming in as our second match, and then Maryville versus EG Prodigies, which is going to be our first match here. And I gotta say, very, very excited to see what is going to happen here between these two squads, especially when we talk about Maryville and Evil Genius Prodigies. And I'm going to start it off just by talking about these two squads. Osama, you already jumped onto the fact that this is a squad full of 2 teams that look like they could have been the first seed. Very easily so. On paper, it makes perfect sense. But we look at the rosters here, there's a difference in experience between the two, Osama.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying beforehand is Maryville is kind of like, you know, the experience, the collegiate team. They've done well in collegiate for as far as I can remember. So, you know, they seem to have a system in place. Shady's still there. Niles is back from his LCS adventure. Odd Orange. And then you look at EG Prodigies, and it's a bunch of rookies, and they're here to, you know, try to make some noise for themselves. Obviously, like the seedings, they're gonna have to play 100 Thieves next if they win this. But, you know, as an amateur player, these are the types of situations that at least personally I would like to be in, because, you know, you get to show up, you get to prove your worth. And from what I heard, the top lane matchup in specific is probably something to look at, because Faisal is you know, one of the better performing top laners, not just in his team but the whole tournament. And he's playing against an experienced player like Niles, so they both play GP, they share some of the same champions, and it's just something I want to look at in specific is the top lane matchup. I want to see maybe does Niles just like put him in the dirt with his LCS experience, or maybe this is a new rookie that's about to start making some noise for himself. So
Right.
I'm excited for this game. It's it's kind of like the experience versus the rookies, and I mean I played on a team with some young bloods back when I was on 100 Thieves Next. Sometimes they put out some work, and you don't expect the stuff they could do. So I'm just excited for this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, all those guys are in Academy. Wait. Oh, no, Tenacity's in LCS now.
Some of them have surpassed me from wherever I've gone. Dog's playing LCS, Tenacity, man.
I've zoomed on ahead.
Playing with Core JJ, dude. That's some crazy stuff. Back in the day, man, that's a good throwback. Yeah, you mentioned that both these top laners play Gangplank. They don't just play Gangplank, they destroy people on Gangplank. Faisal had a game where he went 14-0 on this champion just a couple of weeks ago, and Niles, of course, a perennial Gangplank player. He's also had some really crazy games on this. These two players are going to be super exciting, not just in their individual laning matchup, but also in the rest of the team fight. And like you said, Faisal has been one of the premier team fighters in the entire tournament. I pulled some stats from Oracle's Elixir. He's in the top 5 of all players in the tournament for kill participation. That's as a top laner. That's really difficult to do as in that role. He's also number 1 for kill share on his team, which means he is the player who gets the most kills in relation to the rest of his players. That's insane. That's so gross from a top laner
especially
as well.
a top laner. It's,
yeah,
kind of
you're on an island up there.
Yeah, so really exciting there.
Talking about the excitement that's there too. I mean, these are two squads. I have to bring up it might be a little bit of a sore subject between these two teams, but they have a mutual enemy, and Taco Tuesday was the team that took them down. Taco Gaming was able to conquer them, and they both lost in interesting ways against these two. Smats, if you would, I believe you were talking about before we got started about how these teams ended up losing versus Taco.
Yeah, so they both lost to the same team, and I feel they both lost in a very similar way. And it was in the late game, Taco Gaming just had really solid team fighting, and more importantly, team fighting coordination. I think they were all on the same page a lot better than these two squads. Now, that was 1 week ago in Maryville's case and 2 weeks ago in Evil Genius's case. So that's definitely something that I would imagine they have looked a lot better at and looked to try to coordinate better moving into this matchup, especially if they acknowledge the same thing that I did, that they lost in the same way. If they can get better at that in the middle of these team fights, then I think they will have a much easier time progressing through this tournament. But that's definitely a weakness that both squads had. Especially the big moment was for Maryville, where they were really heavily winning, and we saw in the Grapes video that they just gave over a quadra kill to Lynx on this Ezreal, and that just completely blew it up. So they definitely need to get that in order for this match.
Yeah, that wasn't even just a quadra, man. He got a pentakill inside of his game, and it was just like, yo, this dude is insane. First pentakill that we got to see actually pop out inside that Maryville match. So it was great to be able to see. Very much so hype, well deserved from them, but it shows these squads, they have some holes to poke into them. Osama, you have quite a bit of competitive history here. How does it feel in those kind of matchups when you do find yourself in that situation where you are in a similar situation against another team that has kind of the same strengths and weaknesses as you?
I would hope that they both went into their week of practice with a goal in mind. Obviously, it's not like too hard to find out your weaknesses as a team. It's just more about when you're doing practice and scrimming, you're actually drilling in those issues. So you wake up on the day, you got to hope that your practice goes into work, or honestly, sometimes it just goes crazy in these games and just all the fundamentals go out the room and it's just blow for blow. So honestly, I think that's kind of what might happen here with the pressure on the line with a squad of rookies. Like, sometimes you just make it crazy and the enemy team doesn't know what to do. So honestly, I'm kind of hoping for that. I'm kind of hoping for some bigger games. Either way, I just hope the games deliver.
Yeah. Well, something that does and sometimes doesn't deliver. It depends on what side you're on. It's the caster predictions. Okay, this is where we get to talk about where people's minds are at. Wow, that's a lot of NFT.
Yeah, well, first of all, we got to acknowledge the big brain in the room. That's Big Brain Boulevard here in first place. Congratulations to him, still keeping that one alive. I always believed in you, buddy. Definitely a risky move to not go for no team in this first match, I will say. I definitely don't agree with Beatdown's assessment in this one. Ooh. I'm gonna agree with Hawk over there on the left and also Orbital. And no, actually, those guys have different ones. It's RMC and Orbital that have the same prediction as me. I'm with those guys.
Well, I would say I would be with somebody here, but unfortunately nobody went with Dare. My heart still speaks for them, So I can't agree with anybody here. Also, we still have the trend of play-by-plays having better predictions than their color casters. The only color caster that's actually up there right now is Beatdown. Rebel's got some nice points for himself as well, but yeah, it's the play-by-plays, giga-minding the predictions, right behind Big Brain Boulevard. Just want to bring that up, our play-by-plays. We got to stick together in this. We don't win the caster showdowns, but in predictions. But with that being said, guys, we got our matchup coming up here between Evil Genius Prodigies and Maryville. We've talked about the different team fights and whatnot. Is there anybody in particular, besides this top lane, we've already jumped into the top lane. Is there anybody else in particular that you guys are keeping your eyes out for going into this game?
Yeah, I think the most interesting meta-defining player from Maryville right now is Getback, because on this squad, he is playing the enabling mid laners, like the Twisted Fate and the Orianna as well. Nobody else in the entire tournament is playing Twisted Fate. And, my feelings about that aside, I think this does actually have a really interesting impact that allows Maryville to have some stronger early game macro points than other teams would, because you do have that Destiny. You can access the other lanes with the gold card a lot earlier, and that alongside with the Gangplank is really showing us that Maryville are, they're sad about the TP change, man. They want to go back to bot lane regardless of whether or not that's nerfed. They're picking the Twisted Fate, they're picking the Gangplank just so they can affect Azog and Shady's lane, and more specifically, let Shady leave that lane to go somewhere else after they have that advantage, which I really appreciate in their gameplay in the early game.
Yeah, and I would think for me as well, I think Odd Orange with Niles, at least I've played solo queue against that duo combo.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Dude, they make it unplayable sometimes for the enemy top laner, or sometimes they make it unplayable for themselves. But well, I'm down to see how Perry and Odd Orange go as well. So honestly, maybe it's a more of a topside focus type of series this matchup, but. Honestly, Shady, like you said, he loves to roam around the map. I play against him a lot, and I played against him as an AD and a support, and he's always gone. So, it's a really interesting matchup, and I just want to get in the games. Yeah.
Actually, did you play against him in solo queue when he was like back in old Fiddlesticks days when he was spamming that champion?
Yeah, I've been playing since season 2, so.
That was the most annoying shit. Oh, okay, sorry.
It happened!
I did not slip up first. Oh my god. Got the pressure off me now.
I'm sorry. I played Rakan, and that was like the direct champion to counter Rakan. It was awful. Like he'd throw the crow at you, and then you dash to your ally, and then it would just bounce between you two. That was the worst.
I remember that.
Oh no. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
it's alright, the PTSD flares up.
He's played Pyke a good bit. I'm just curious. Yeah. I mean, they could bring out a lot of different stuff. I know he used to play Heimer. I mean, dude, Shady plays like a lot of different types of lanes. I wouldn't be surprised if they just whip out Karthus Pike or something. I'm not sure if that's still a thing. It was a thing back when I was playing.
Yep.
I don't know. There's a lot of different champs being played now. Obviously, that's a good job by Riot. They've kind of like expanded the pro play pool. So, yeah, I'm doubted to see what type of comps these teams pick out.
And speaking on that point too, I do want to bring up the fact that we're on 12.1 still, right? Like, there's a lot of the champions. These players have had more time than I believe in any amateur tournament that we've really been able to have in the past, just because of the fact that they've been able to sit on this patch, to be able to actually learn the champions, learn the meta, and get to see how everybody is playing differently inside of this meta. That does mean things like Chemtech is still inside of 12.1. So we do have the Chemtech Drake. That is something that is still here. But the different champions, like the Akali that Smats has been ever so excited about whenever we've seen it, there's all these different answers that have been coming into the game, and we get to see these players constantly solve it. Is there anything that you guys are looking at that has possibly came in here long term that you think will have an impact inside of this, or will not be seen inside this series?
Well, first of all, I on 12.2 did just play an ARAM on Chemtank Akali, and it's still pretty good. So for all the people who are concerned about this build, it's gone. It's still here. Don't worry. It's just a little bit worse. They can't hold us down. I
wish.
The roaming champions for Shady are really interesting because it doesn't feel like Daption is super comfortable with the new support shakeup quite yet. He spent a lot of time on Wildcard playing things that enabled Arrow, but not really necessarily the enchanters. It was more around like the Thresh, Nautilus, and the Rel especially. He was really good at Rel. Those champions have. They're still here, but they've sort of been ousted by the enchanters with the new glacial. Things like the Janna are really strong, Lulu as well, Karma. It doesn't really feel like he's fit into that meta quite yet. And I think with Shady's roam style, if he wants to go for that, you can really exploit an uncomfortable enchanter player with those champions that when Daption goes for a ward, very easy to just kill him. So I think that's something to watch out for in the meta for these games for sure.
How about you, Osama? How are you feeling? 12.1, we're still here on it.
Hey, I've been playing some off-season solo queue, and man, I just personally wish it wasn't like Lux, Lulu, Yuumi meta. So hey, I'm all for any champions they want to pick. Just personally, I don't want to see Yuumi. That's like the one champ. Like, please, just get it banned. Like, it's not even like an unpopular opinion. I'm pretty sure 99% of players are gonna agree with me here. Like, Yuumi just needs to just not be in the game, and I'll have an enjoyable experience.
So, with that being said, I do want to bring up, what are you guys feeling? What is our viewers feeling here? You can let us know by going onto Twitter and using the hashtag #WeAreUnified. Let us know your thoughts. Do you agree? Are you a part of the 90% that don't want Yuumi inside of the game? Do you want more Pike? Let us know using #WeAreUnified. Ask your questions, put out your tweets, put out your messages, and your tweet could show up on the Twitch channel here on the Academy channel. So, make sure you go on there and use it. Yet again, hashtag #WeAreUnified. And also, let us know what you're thinking inside the game. Or I'm not going to ask about gamer snacks this time. I learned my lesson from the last time.
I still haven't forgotten about your pickle nonsense, man. We're still gonna have you answer for that.
Listen, I maybe I'll explain. I'll put out a video on it.
Yeah, I feel
sometime.
like I'm missing something here, but
He said that his favorite gamer snack was pickles. How are you gonna eat pickles while playing a game?
oh, I mean, it can't be your favorite, but I mean, pickles do smack, but it just can't be.
Okay.
It does.
Oh, I missed
look.
it. I could have said I had an easy pun there, whatever.
You can always go back.
Yeah, we can always run it back. I'll run it back for a good pun.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. We deleted the last 15 seconds of footage.
Nah, I mean, gamer snack. Oh, I mean, nah, we don't have to dive into gamer snacks here. We're talking about League of Legends, so gotta go off topic.
Stay hydrated, gamers. Water is the best snack.
Stay hydrated.
That is a
Yes.
good snack. With that being said, we're going to take ourselves a little bit of a hydration break. We are going to take ourselves a short little break as we're going to get hydrated up, gamers. And when we come back, we're going to be getting into Evil Genius's Prodigies taking on Maryville. So do not touch that browser.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, but this time to the caster desk. My name's Dia. I am joined by Rudude, and as our desk has set us up for Rudude, we're about to be covering EG Prodigies versus Maryville, one of the matchups that I've been looking forward to for a very, very long time, and it's mainly because of the way that all these players are going to interact, especially with the volatility in the top side.
There really is. We've got previous LCS experience on one side and we've got this new up-and-comer on the other, so it is going to be that battle of experience versus raw untapped talent to see who can come away with the slight advantages there. So I'm hoping to see some great stuff out of them. Both of these teams, just in general, a lot of story between the two of them. Obviously Maryville have been the top of Collegiate, were dethroned last season, but have been an incredibly present threat in Collegiate throughout the last couple of seasons. EGP have got one of the best amateur programs out there. They're doing incredible work as well, developing the new talent. So both of these squads coming in should be very exciting to see what they can come in for. And quickly, as Smacks mentioned here, MU, the team all about Twisted Fate, they're not going to get their hands on it in game number 1.
No, already taken away, and these teams are going to have to give this one their all, because only one of them will get the opportunity to maybe, just maybe, get their revenge on Taco Gaming, the ones that have put them here in the first place, here in the lower bracket, where one of these teams will not get the chance to move on to those playoffs. You and I were talking up some of the players earlier, of course, and it is going to be heavily reliant on these guys individually throughout the early game to create their own advantages, because we both know that those small advantages can matter a lot when both these teams get to where they're comfortable with in the form of those team fights.
And I'm hoping to see some strong death ball compositions, honestly, by either side. Azog and Sketch, two incredibly well-versed team fight AD carries, particularly when we see two ADCs already hitting the ban table as well. Certainly going to be putting a little bit more restraint on that champion pool. Twisted Fate taking away Corki as well. Victor priority sort of shoots up a little bit here when you have those two taken away. Potential the EGP taken away, or MU may just have to expect that to be the first pick. But Lee Sin taken away from Orange, again a very staple ban up against this jungler. Is a very proactive, aggressive early game player, so getting that one off the board early on certainly makes a lot of sense. And with the Ezreal still open, we've still got Jin as well as announced. We've got 3 ADC bans already, dear. We're going to see potentially one of those trades come through.
I'm surprised that we're even seeing Xin Zhao hover and a lock-in more so as well, because you were talking about the ADCs and because you were talking about the Victor. Two incredibly high priorities, but the Xin Zhao ends up surpassing all of that. Now I think, yeah, considering the Akali, it makes sense that you're grabbing this, because that's also incredibly high priority. You get to answer back the Xin Zhao with the Jarvan, and the ball's back in EGP's court.
Exactly. This is just a good trade of junglers, and honestly, I love that Maryville have got their hands on Akali here, sort of slipped through my head as a potential pickup, because we've been still on 12.1 here. This isn't nerfed Turbo Chem Tank, this is still going to be full obnoxious Bruiser Akali that can one-shot AD carries regardless. Now EGP, looking forward, they're going to have to try and find an answer to this, be it top lane, be it mid lane, and likely try and pick up something around their bot lane as well. There's the EGP top lane, it's going to be Renekton here as the answer, so a little bit of early on skirmishing should be able to win out in that laning phase and bully the Akali a little bit early on, but this is the power of taking it on. Red side here is that Maryville can still put this in Getback's hands, and if they see a good mid matchup on R5, they can more than happily swap it round.
Yeah, I'd like to see some adaptations come through here, especially because with the Renekton being able to straight up win a lane, and with the champion flexibility of both Get Back and Niles, Maryville, like you're talking about, have the options, and as do EGP, both playing around that with extreme caution. The Rakan ending up being locked in, I think is a great pivot from EGP, because it takes this top side focus that they've had during the draft and starts to shift it a little bit more southerly.
It also opens up for them to double down on that as well here. I want to say Rakan, an excellent roaming champion, and Daption as well, a player that is very well versed at trying to get out of his laning phase. Obviously, last split having played with Arrow has been more than capable at leaving a player of his caliber on his own and getting those roams out and about. Sketch going to be potentially left a little bit isolated here, but the Kai'Sa AD carry coming through. This is not what I was expecting, but Azog taking the dive composition from Maryville to a whole new level right here. They're sort of doubling, tripling down even on that. Akali and Jarvan are a good dive duo, but now you've got that Akali in there. You are going all out, and things like the Galio as well in this second phase for Maryville fits the sort of realm of Twisted Fate and also pairs so nicely with the Jarvan.
The ban on the Xayah as well just makes this an incredibly difficult position for Sketch. Dreams an AD carry that we are going to keep our eyes on. Sketch on EGP has been a really big part of their success, and with his ability to skirmish quite well, now potentially being taken away by 3 different champions that are going to jump on top of him, they are putting the screws to him, and a phrase that I think I'll probably be using a lot tonight when referencing Maryville.
Yeah, they're certainly diving, hoping to find a Sketch. He still has that Ezreal open and available, and I think that is something that I expect to see him pick up. This Tristana ban may not have seemed like we've seen Tristana a lot prevalently in the meta. It's very good versus Jarvan. You can get out of that Cataclysm, but also Sketch has an insane Tristana win ratio across amateur. Coming into last season, at some point he was 12-0, 12-1 on the Tristana in his competitive games in the amateur space, so this is an incredibly well-versed ban to put on the table for him. Thresh coming through as, again, just another source into the backline and potentially disengage as well should they need it.
I'm concerned about the Ziggs. The hover and the likely lock-in here does put you, yes, in a place where you can hold down the fort bot lane, but ultimately doesn't answer a whole lot of the dive in the way that you would have expected an AD carry to be able to at this point in the draft. The Syndra being considered as well for EGP does put them in a place where they'd much rather be going forward than dealing with what Maryville have to do to them.
Yeah, 2 immobile-esque mages if this Syndra gets locked in. Ziggs does have that satchel, and you can do some nice counterplay around the Jarvan Cataclysm with that, opening up a double flex pick as well. That Syndra can be locked into the bot lane. Ziggs can also go into the mid lane if you find that matchup a little bit more appropriate. And now we get to see what Maryville's final pick is. Remember, they've still got this option to take things into the top lane, like the Aurelia, the Akali as well can be flexed back into the mid lane if they so desire. Plenty of options open to Maryville, and any form of counter to the Syndra. We'll have to see what's open. Things like the Echo that we've seen from Taco Gaming specifically are also open.
Oh yeah! Game 1, baby! We are getting the gangplank! I didn't think we were going to see this the entire series. You and I were talking about it during the desk. I was like, yeah, no way that gets picked up. It's going to be banned away. It's going to be taken by something, but holy moly, making it through all the way to R5. Niles is really throwing down the gauntlet in this top side, and against the Renekton, it's the perfect flex of champions.
Exactly, they take that Akali into the mid lane as we mentioned. GP for Niles, one of his classic pickups from before he was even in the LCS. He's going to be looking to style on this Renekton as well. And the reason you say that we didn't expect to see either of the players get their hands on it is not because they're bad, it's because we both know that they are so good on this GP. Faisal has got the highest kill share on his team out of any top laner. I think he's top 5 in the entire league. because of an incredibly skewed GP game that you got to play last week. Niall's obviously a very storied GP player as well. The fact that either one of them get their hands on this one is an absolute miracle, and that Niall's pulls it out in game number 1. This is a pick that we were expecting to see high presence on, and I'm glad we're not disappointed.
I am terrified of Maryville. I thought up to that R5 they had a really good draft as well, but with the Gangplank now having even more damage and backline access that is kind of inherent to Gangplank even from a range, EGP have a lot to be worried about. And I want to see if we can walk through the tools that EGP have to turn this fight themselves, to turn not just those late game fights, but the skirmishes in between and leading up to where their lane advantages might be, because right now it's feeling very Maryville centric this game.
So the good thing then for EGP, that Ziggs should have push in bot lane versus the Kai'Sa Syndra as well early on. We'll probably be able to bully out the Akali. And Renekton versus GP, we're going to have to wait and see how that matchup goes, because traditionally, right, Renekton, a very strong laner, but GP's level 1 kind of unparalleled, so it depends how much punishment Niles can get down during that phase. But EGP have got a few tools early on to make things happen. The Akali, the Kai'Sa, generically a little bit weaker. And I also think that with this really dive-centric comp that Maryville have got, Rakan may actually find a lot easier of a time, because you don't have to use that grand entrance as a form of engage here. If 5 people are dashing into you, getting a 5-man quickness becomes incredibly easy, because you can dash between your own team, shield them up, and get those charms going to provide that source of peel as well. You've got things like the Crescent Guard as well from Xin Zhao to just knock people away. They do have these slightly adverse tools, ones that we traditionally see used as engage, but up against this Maryville composition, you've got every option to just go, you know what, we can use it for an engage and catch Maryville off guard, because they also don't go back too tremendously. But equally, if they're going to be jumping on us, we've got every chance to just hold them up, slow their assault, and kill them in that process.
There's a lot of focus being put on Daption here, especially when you talked about that counter engage, though, with the Charm being the biggest disruptor on this squad, with both Daption and I'm going to say Faisal having a lot of pressure in different ways as well. Daption more so focused on the team fight, and Faisal very much focused on the lane and even the impact in those later game team fights as well, as he is one of those champions that you and I were talking about all of last week, where flanks become so ridiculously important. Here, it can change the game. Maryville will have an incredibly easy time picking you apart if you are isolated and not pulling off the flank at the same time as your team would like to engage.
No, and I think that looking at this game sort of from a broader perspective and maybe dialing in a little bit onto this mid lane matchup that I want to touch on quickly, that coming into this tournament as well, I want to harp on that we'd sort of established, I think, that most people were, okay, Insanity, Ryoma, they're our top 2 mid laners for the entirety of this event. I'm very high on Get Back right now. Coming into the tournament, hadn't any tape, but this guy coming across from OS. Obviously, we've got a lot of OS players in North America that are doing very well for themselves. Fudge and FBI, to name a couple. I think that Get Back, for me, has cemented himself in the early game as one of the top 3 to fill out that role in the mid lane in this event. Has been playing the early games incredibly well, always seems to be at the right place at the right time, and his skirmishing is incredible through those early stages. So on this Akali now, a champion with a little bit less agency, my eyes are particularly on him to see what he can do to sort of live up to my mantle right now.
Yeah, this is going to be a difficult matchup to navigate, especially in what you already identified as his strength. But later on, we get to see a different side of Get Back and potentially get impressed there as well. A nice hook landing from Shady early on and a bit of damage pumped into Daption. But we're not going to get a whole lot of action there. Instead, the game is going to be played through information earlier on as both junglers try and scout each other out towards the top side. And I want to see where these guys end up starting. Whether they try and get a odd beginning. What's up?
They see this ward go down here, Azog, and immediately Orange with his sweeper charging forward to try and hit it, and the defense from EGP, this is so interesting to see early on. Literally level 1, battling for vision here. They saw Orange walk his way through the mid lane, so it means that Perry's able to walk on up, get a ward down on the Jarvan's Raptors. This trade of information here completely in favour of EGP, and they're going to know pretty much where Orange is starting, where on the other side, yes, there is a leash occurring for the EGP jungler, but may not have the complete information.
And as of right now, Daption and Sketch should at least have an idea that inside of this brush, Azog and Shitty could be, but they don't spot it out just yet. And again, Daption does take a relatively large chunk being put right back under the tower. This is going to hamper the laning potential of the Ziggs Rakan early on, but likely won't result in their deaths.
If we get Gleaming Quill from Daption, potentially try and poke out a little bit and get that healing going, he should be okay. Obviously, has 2 potions to burn through as well. But that hook itself could just set up Azog and Shady for a very good laning phase to sort of mitigate, as you mentioned, what could have been a fairly difficult one. Shady hitting level 2, they should be fine to have already walked away, get that respect down. But look at your junglers once again here. It's Odd Orange pathing his way down to the bot side. This wave, they're going to have another one collected, and there's a very real possibility that we get a dive attempt come through as well early on. You can already tell that Perry, working his way up toward the top side, going to be trying to help out Faisal against this GP matchup.
It's already likely a difficult one, as we haven't had the chance to check it out too much just yet, but like you talked about, that Gangplank early level, extremely difficult to deal with, especially as a melee champion. Now, Perry did get the chance to ping out for his team where he suspected that Odd Orange was going. I believe they got it confirmed ever so slightly by the ward right next door to the Raptors. So EGP, with this continued information advantage, are, I would say, winning in a very small way the early game, simply because they're the ones that have more decisions available to them, whereas Odd Orange, being constantly tracked, isn't really coming up with anything he can do.
Now, in pathing down to this bot side, when they're obviously forcing it under the turret, does mean that you'd have to go for a dive, or you're sort of shadowing. He's now matched this top side presence. Shady also taking a reset off of a crashed wave. We heard it on the desk, or Solomon mentioned it himself, that Shady, he gets out on the map. It doesn't matter where he's playing, what he's doing. He wants to be out and about, making impact plays happen. He's been spotted on a ward on top side, and from Maryville's perspective as well, this is something that coming into our entire prep for Maryville, we'd said, Shady will roam. Whoever the AD carry is, be it Evan, be it Azog, they need to be comfortable with taking a backseat in the bot lane. And it looks like that is going to be absolutely no different now that we've got Azog in for this game at the very least as well. Already roaming around, looking to make some plays. The Boots tier 1 already in the back pocket.
And if you're a Maryville fan, this is something that you have come to recognize about Azog as well, and the way that Maryville likes to play around him. He is a little bit more reserved than Evan, their other option for AD carries that you'll occasionally see take to the stage. And with Azog able to sit back, and I would say a little bit more comfortably, get time for his support to roam, this is the kind of play that is being enabled, and Niles, having a perfectly good time up in this top side on the Gangplank, is the one that ultimately benefits from it.
Getting just that little bit of presence from his support, as you mentioned, is exactly the reason that he's able to benefit from this situation. Can feel comfortable pushing out this lane, doesn't really have any vision, but he knows that that support from the team came through earlier, and then just with general timings of the junglers, Perry shouldn't be up here, should be on his second clear from bot to top lane, and as he's about to start pathing into the top side, he takes that reset, gets himself out of harm's way, particularly with no vision as well. So going forward, Drake obviously just spawned, could be taken by both of these junglers without too much help, but you have to look at the presence, the priority of each lane, get back kind of starting to stack up and push through. And now obviously with your mid laners looking to roam, it is Orange now that starts it up.
It's a little bit risky to do so with the mid lane being pushed in. Maryville in a position where they could be made to pay for that. We saw Small engage towards this tri-brush where Sketch and Daption were able to play around the safety of their tower, and it ends up being a net neutral. Odd Orange doesn't go for the dragon, Perry doesn't have to worry about it, and both of them retreat back to their own jungles to farm up. In an increasingly tense early game, no real objective advantage going to be found just yet, because both these teams are crucially playing with respect. The analyst desk pointed out they are so similar to each other, and here is where it really matters.
And at this point, EGP have actually got a really nice advantage in the mid lane. I want to quickly point this out because I touched on it being the sort of matchup that I was interested in. Get Back hasn't managed to find a recall timer. Leo has. He's expended his TP, but that's already cycling its way back down. They're going to be using this mid lane to hopefully facilitate some plays around Summoner's Rift, because Leo should be able to push in every single wave reliably. Get Back hasn't found a chance to go back, and as such has item advantage. Perry
Niles has flash, ends up using the orange quite early though, and can get knocked up underneath the tower. A second and even a third tower shot will return the kill right back onto Perry, as his very first gank of the game does result in both his and the enemy laner's death.
That's still worthwhile, though, for EGP. Obviously, Maryville, unfortunately, have Odd Orange just on a reset. Can't make his way down into, for example, the bot side of Perry's jungle. And I will always say, when you're taking a trade of laner for jungler, it always benefits the team that loses their jungler, because it's so much more difficult to get those exchanged resources. Now, Niall's obviously getting that knock up, and look at the damage he pumps out in a second. Trial by fire into a parlay, into 3 turret shots in the cannon barrage. It's a lot of damage in an instant, and unfortunately it does catch Perry out, but once again, still going to be an overall beneficial play to the EGP squad.
Niles gets to use his teleport, returning right back to the lane, continuing with the momentum that he had earlier and the confidence that he had earlier as well. Like you talked about, perhaps a little bit dissuaded, but nonetheless relatively stable up in his top side, as Maryville expect of him, with Sketch naturally holding things down bot lane. The attention is starting to shift a little bit more towards this Rift Herald, as we're only 15 seconds away from the very next objective spawning on the Rift.
And already both supports up in this top side of the river. Looks like Maryville with a little bit more pairing, and obviously with Perry in his Raptors right now, does give Maryville this opportunity to close out some vision, secure themselves the Scuttle Crab, and a little bit of priority around the top side Rift Herald. Perry now pathing his way through mid lane to stake their intention.
Whoa,
no vision.
whoa, we are just walking into that, and Crescent Guard buys time, but will it be enough? Perry still trying desperately to get out, will not be able to make it as the perfect execution takes get back right out of Sketch's area of effect, and ultimately ends up spelling the death of Niles, as some very nice CC hitting in the mid lane means that that trade goes relatively evenly for EGP, despite their early, what I'll call missteps, face checking a brush.
They also get priority on the mid lane push as well, which gives them first roam to whatever objective they may look to take. Unfortunately, having lost Perry, it means that going to that Herald is very difficult, but we do get a little bit of a replay on how all of this began. And you can see no vision in this top side because of that priority that Maryville had set up first, and that Perry was in his bot side jungle. He does just get blown up here. Yes, you've got that ulti, but it's not quite enough. And then, just when you think this is fine, a good hook hits onto Sketch, but then Niall steps a little too far forward and takes a brunt of Syndra damage. The Ignite actually from Daption stops that orange healing being too impactful, and actually gives the 1-for-1 trade. Just a slight misstep stops that from being a net positive for Maryville.
A lot of unexpected burst from that unleashed power, and assist going over to Leo at the end of it. Keeps EGP totally comfortable so far. Again, these teams basically dead even right now, but with Maryville continuing to apply the pressure, and more importantly, getting that first move onto the Rift Herald up top side, I'm surprised they didn't end up walking away with it, as it looks like EGP are actually the ones that ultimately are going to get the objective.
Okay, so Leo not all using his prio. Faisal now all-inning.
I might be able to get this kill. Orange might still be available, but Niles didn't use it. Ends up walking away underneath the tower. Sub 100 HP, and with confidence. This is the Niles that we've come to grow and love. And Faisal, very confident himself, going for that.
It's so brutal. Faisal, if he waits just a second longer, he's going to get 50 Fury and get that Cull the Meek with the enhanced capabilities, and it would have been a kill onto Niles. Unfortunately, just bites the bullet a little too early and is unable to find that solo kill. Would have been so huge for him to get that, to put him even further ahead in this lane. Looks like Perry's coming through to help out in that facet. Herald is being placed, and it will probably get this charge off to at least establish a couple plates for Perry. But it could have been so much more had this been... You know, it's one of those things where, yes, overall, it's a good play. It could have been better.
It certainly could have, and the fact that Niles is able to keep that turret from going down even after being chunked out in that way is absolutely huge for Maryville, and may just give them the opportunity to not just hang on in the top side, but to get their play going in the bot side as well, because they did see Perry up towards the top lane, and now they've got Shady and Odd Orange on an invade, and maybe even a gank. Shady not quite going for this just yet, as there was a little bit of miscommunication between him and Odd Orange that ultimately leads to this not being a very beneficial turret dive.
Well, you know, they still got Leo's flash, and on an immobile mage in the mid lane, I will take that. Again, yes, could it have been better? Most likely, but they get the flash and they get out to safety, so overall, not the worst situation. And we have got Drake spawning here in just... well, it's actually already up, so no flash on the mid laner is certainly going to be a bit of a hindrance as EGP are looking to take back control of this river, something that has been fairly difficult for them setting up around these objectives. Right, they'll have currently been out on top for the most part in this facet, but Looks like they've just been able to walk in by force, and this 4-man powerhouse is going to be able to take themselves their first objective in the bot side of Summoner's Rift.
Crucially, Daption just being able to clear out vision immediately beforehand gets EGP not just the dragon, but allows Faisal the opportunity to finally clean up that tower in the top side on this Renekton. Still relatively comfortable up against the Gangplank, hasn't suffered too much in the CS, and even for right now, does leave Renekton, actually, is the one in the driver's seat, as Gangplank's spikes come a little bit later, and even right now, this Renekton can have more impact in the skirmishes, in the team fights, what have you, just because of the early power that is inbuilt into his kit.
And I'm really intrigued by this GP build for Niles. I see a Vamp Scepter in his inventory, and I think we're going to be going full glass cannon. That Sheen could build into the Divine Sundra, could also be building into an Essence Reaver, and then an Immortal Shield bow for the Gangplank, and then we get some really intense crits coming from those barrels if you hit the RNG proc on it. Good play from Shady, gets him out to safety. But this GP getting later and later, if it is that Essence Reaver into Immortal Shield bow build, is going to be dishing out so much damage and is relying pretty much exclusively on that shield from the Immortal Shield bow to keep himself safe. So keep your eye out for Niles as we get later into this game, because you already know that GP going to be a large threat, a large presence for anybody to try and handle.
It's going to be very difficult to deal with this, however. Equally so, Get Back does tank up a lot of damage off the ultimate from Leo, and as Get Back continues to farm up and purchase even more items towards that Chem Tank Akali, he's going to be even more difficult to kill. Leo really is not going to have a great time in this mid lane, because he's not really built to kill Get Back. If he can take down Azog, if he can take down Niles, that's great. Even if he can pump some damage into Odd Orange. But this Akali is going to be pretty much immortal unless Faisal and Perry are the ones dealing with it.
Ooh, okay, good. Shuriken Flip gets him out to safety. And something that we did get to see down on that bot side, just a little preview of, is Azog kind of bullying out Sketch right now. Just has that CS lead of about 10. Able to burn the TP of Sketch as well, so he doesn't get too far behind. There's a slight experience lead for Azog. It's not currently amounting in a level at all, but if we see some more plays around the Rift, it could end up sort of snowballing into that. 14 minutes in here, dear. We are 2-2 in our kill score, but it is EGP with that top lane turret that have the gold advantage. And for them, it's going okay here. We've got a Drake apiece. We still have those concerns that if they get engaged upon here, that their answers are sort of difficult to find. But with that little bit of a lead, Maryville, they've shown that they're being fairly tentative. They've shown that they have the respect, at least, to not completely force into EGP. That last dragon, a bit of an example.
Perry, however, on a bit of a solo mission, is going to get caught with not nearly as much respect. Fortunately, Maryville, recognizing they don't have enough vision in the river to take the fight, aren't going to take advantage of it. But we, from our bird's eye view, know that that was very, very risky for Perry and could very well have led to his death. As Get Back pops up into the top side, now completely fearless on this Chem Tank Akali. Gets to clear out a wave and honestly stay much safer in the longer lane than Niles would have been able to over by the river. Now swapping back over the mid lane, however, it is time for Get Back to go on the chase. Leo getting slowed up by the ultimate here, has already taken one charge of the perfect execution, takes a second, and Get Back takes basically no damage.
Turbo Chem Tank Akali, ladies and gentlemen, you have to ban this. Nice setup from Niles here. He puts the Cannon Barrage down, and that's all that is needed to allow Get Back to get in. Really good spacing on the Akali as well. Puts himself behind the Syndra underneath the turret. It is in a little bit more of a dangerous position, but recognizing there's no, he's able to get away with it, and means that he's able to find that solo kill and uses R2 in a good angle and sets himself up for it to get out from underneath the turret.
The worrying thing about Maryville, especially with the power of the Akali that you and I have been talking about this entire game, now that it's built up to the point that it is relatively tanky, this Cannon Barrage plus Akali combo is deadly. And honestly, sometimes you won't even need the Cannon Barrage. You can walk in, pick off a squishy in the side lane, and retreat completely unpunished. It'll start to slowly but surely push the gold in the favor of Maryville, and even push the side lanes, the whole map dynamic, over towards where Get Back can be the one controlling it.
And that could be a really big turning point here in this matchup between the two mid laners. Wherever they end up facing, it really does go to show you that Akali's going to have the run of things.
Shady having the run of things inside the jungle as well, brings Odd Orange with him. Odd Orange hasn't had the chance to do, I would say, too much aggressive ganking that we know that he likes to this game, but is making up for it with the backup of Shady being able to at least get some additional vision down on the bot side, perhaps benefiting Get Back soon, as Faisal, not exactly a diveable champion at this moment, but we'll see what happens, especially with Dragon coming up pretty soon. Auto Orange, though, going to get interrupted there. Uses the Lantern to get out and simultaneously dodge the Scout of the Week. But this fight around the Dragon, I'm wondering whether Maryville take it.
They do have TP on Niles. They've got this option to just port down the Gangplank. He doesn't have Cannon Barrage, so that will be his sort of only help to the squad, and I honestly don't mind them sacrificing this. There are top camps to take. There's an outer turret in the top lane that's going to be funneling more gold into your Gangplank in the late game, who's going to be, again, an absolute menace. It is that Immortal Shield Bow, so you expect to see just absolutely absurd crits coming out from this guy. He's not going for a Bruiser-esque mythic at all. This is raw damage from Niles, and he's banking on his own positioning, his own skill and mechanics to keep himself safe. Yes, he's got fleet footwork, but that's about it.
Must be nice to be Niles and be able to just rely on the fact that you can and probably will outplay your opponents. That's definitely the benefit of having him on your team as Maryville. They get all of the early game setup. They've already paid a lot of attention to Shady constantly roaming and just the X factor that they've got up in the top side, but we cannot ignore EGPs either. They've all hit their crucial mythic breakpoints at this point, and they're moving up towards second items, and I'm really excited about this Bruiser combo. Parry Faisal inside of these team fights could be really big if only Maryville would actually take a team fight.
Yeah, and at the minute it's not in their interest to do so. They're still just farming up CS leads, still farming up advantages in their side lanes. Niles has been able to find one, and at the moment, that is to their own discredit, because EGP, they want to take some team fights. They are searching for something. They are charging down this mid lane. Satchel plus Herald, a lethal combo. They find 2 turrets in the mid lane, whilst Maryville, they take the bot lane tier 1. But outside of that, that's just a massive Herald play for EGP. A huge gold advantage now in their favour from that.
Like, please, God, fight us. We just took your tier 2. Somebody do something. But Maryville are refusing to for right now, relying on that wave clear from Niles. EGP, they get away with a little bit more in the jungle camps as well, and continue to pull ever so slightly ahead in the gold, but as long as Maryville refuse to play their game, Maryville will continue to scale up and ultimately start to twist this game in their favor, especially when we consider the amount of damage they're going to have.
Faisal should be
Maybe
okay
getting
here.
caught out. Oh no, the slice! The dice actually takes him out over the wall, but he has to invest the flash as well. Dominus still up and ticking away, but ultimately it is the cannon barrage as Niles goes, alright, fine!
That's the worst feeling, and there may be more here. Get back looking for fights.
Should be able to take this pretty confidently as well. Not a lot of damage can be dealt to this Akali, but now in the middle, 3 members. Might that change? He ends up dealing a significant chunk over to Sketch, finally investing the flash himself, but does get finished off much like his predecessor with Parry on top of Azog right now. We're going to get another AD carry falling as Auto for Auto trades Azog for Sketch, and Parry gets to jump forward onto Auto Orange, knocking him up, taking him out. Triple kill going over to Parry, and EGP finally get their fight, but they may have extended it too far. Niles already gets the barrel off, and while Parry is desperately trying to take this fight, there's a teleport coming in. Faisal gonna try and hunt down that last remaining member, see if he can get Shady, but EGP barely come out with that team fight win.
That's 4 kills for the Xin Zhao. That is not a good look. It is EGP who come away with the win in the team fight by a single kill in their favour. And after Faisal gets caught out here on the top side, 1 ward over the wall is pretty much all that it spells is asked for. And as you mentioned here, that first slice going wide actually sets him up for failure. And despite him doing his literal best efforts, that's a feels bad, man. Now we've got team fight number 2, Electric Boogaloo here. One that Maryville have got a numbers advantage for, but EGP do such a good job at splitting up their members and taking small skirmishes in better numbers scenarios. Get back for this entire time is essentially in a 3v1, and down here on the spot side, Leo unfortunately does get soloed out by the GP, who were expecting to be that present threat. But Parry is just free hitting onto everybody this entire time. Finds himself, I believe that's his second, and able to jump onto Odd Orange quite happily to find a third. The Xin Zhao is not to be trifled with. We're at that mid-game peak where he can really dish out the damages, that pinnacle of Xin Zhao. He'll have gone back and picked up his Sterex gauge. This is Parry in his absolute element for the next 5-10 minutes or so before we get to see Azog really take off.
Yeah, this window for Xin Zhao has been so extended because of this fight. Now with the 5 kills, Steric's complete, working on that third item as well, is likely to be, I want to say continually, even more difficult to deal with, and should unlock this next dragon in the favor of EG Prodigies. Still confident in their team fight, still having that vision around this river. Their only concern has to be the mid lane tower being taken away from them.
And just stylistically between these two junglers as well, Orange a much more aggressive player looking for those plays. In the early stages, it didn't pan out, it didn't pay off. Perry was able to sit back and farm up just a little bit more. He's now an entire item up over his counterpart, and yes, that is in part due to those 4 kills that he just received. But coming down to this Drake, we have to wait and see who's going to be able to come out on top. Remember, a decided advantage between the junglers, but that top lane matchup still heavily Maryville.
Laura Depton's been caught out though, and he's the only tool away from this engage from Maryville. Now with Get Back jumping right back in, however, he gets blown up as he walks right into Perry, and melee range of the Xin Zhao is not where anyone wants to be. Niles setting things up for the moment, wants to try and take a fight in the river. It is a 4v4, but you gotta land that barrel combo, and I'm very curious as to whether it'll connect. EGP are playing with a lot of respect right now, and as the barrels explode, so do the chances of Maryville contesting this river fight. Faisal, no dominus, but complete control over the river vision.
Oh, they almost caught Sketch there, nobody there to follow up. And they lost the support for the mid laner, and Maryville know that at the end of the day, they're not going to win a fight with those numbers set up. It's a little bit more difficult for EGP to walk in and face check. Their wards just aren't there because their support's dead. But they're overall able to walk on forward, just use their sheer force of fighting power to get into that Drake and get themselves soul point now. Mountain Soul versus Maryville composition is obviously going to be very nice, as they're going to be consistently trying to dive onto you. And even if they're looking to try and find some side lane action, adaption?
Oh no.
Okay, he was. It's fine. There was a world where he face checks that and is in a lot of peril, but actually Orange wasn't even in the brush, so we'll have to wait and see. Niles should be fine here. There's nobody for a long time.
Adaption is the one that really has to be worried. If you're going to go on that engage, Rakan is not the one that comes out favorably in the trade. Does spot Niles, however, and with a little bit of mutual respect, they'll both back off. Vision control for EGP now being shifted over to the top side, with, of course, the vision that we saw laid down that ultimately saved Adaption from a second death, but even more so being placed around this Baron around the mid-20s. EGP may just be looking to use that strength with Perry to get themselves another big objective. Azog? Oh. What? If full sending it in the backline? Alright. Zanya's is down.
I like it here. This is the sort of new age Kai'Sa build, I suppose, here. We've got W Max coming out from the Kai'Sa. Expect Crown of the Shattered Queen to be his third item. And it just adds on to his ability to dive. It adds on to the poke from this composition as well, that, you know, they're setting up with things like GP barrels and then Void Seekers as well. Their poke around objectives isn't particularly great. So good to see this adaptation from the build, obviously. For those that don't know, Nash's Tooth in its own right gives you evolved W, which means that you're not more than frequently able to hit a lot of skill shots on that cooldown when it is evolved. Puts you into a really good position with a lot of reduced cooldown. And it's good to see here that Get Back, he's got his health in check.
Yeah, when asked
not just in game.
Go-to gamer snack was, he said snacks are lame. This guy's got time for nothing but League of Legends, and right now, well, he's been getting plenty of time to farm up. Faisal not so lucky, being chased down by Niall. Stun comes out, but Faisal may still go down. Flashes away under the tower, and that is in a 1v1 in the side lane. This Renekton's days may very well be up.
Yeah, look at the build, though, from Niles. He's got 3 completed items already. We talked about this build path being incredibly squishy. This is the build path that AD carries dream of, and he gets to take it on GP in the top lane. He's reached his Exodia of damage items. If he hits a crit, he kills people in a very short amount of time, and at 60%, obviously, more likely to than not. This is a sort of style for Maryville that they've been piloting very well this game. They've gone for this 1-3-1 setup, and you can see perfect time to observe how closely knit this 3-man band is going through and collecting vision. The last thing you want is somebody to get caught out on their warding adventures and open up a numbers advantage. But the 3-man have been moving through so tightly, so coordinated to collect these resources to shut down that lead between the junglers, and now Leo is the one in trouble.
Adaption really taking one for the team right now, trying to get a little bit of vision right back, contest Maryville in the slightest, and Perry as well, doing his part over by the river, actually gets himself the pink ward and should be able to get out to safety with Azog not connecting on that Prey Seeker. Doesn't end up being able to use the killer instinct. Maryville back out of the top side. Plenty of space gotten back for EGP, but the game extending does still give you crucial gold, crucial time as Maryville with the hyperscalers not just being in the top side.
And right now, they can take pretty much any fight they desire if Niles is there, because he is just so far ahead of his counterpart. And even if he wasn't, GP at this stage is just going to be a monster. And I can't tell you enough, and I know I keep mentioning it because it's important, it's crucial to who you need to be looking at in these team fights. He's 2 levels up over anybody on his squad. He is absolutely primed and prepped to be the carry for this team. He's 2 levels up over anybody in the game even, dear, in exactly the position he wants to be, setting up for this dragon in about 50 seconds to find the team fight that Maryville have been looking for honestly, not that long at all. They've been heavily focused on their split push, but if EGP find their engage, it is going to be Niles that they need to look for. Your eyes have to be on Daption, potentially on Faisal and Perry as well, to try and shut down this GP in whatever way possible.
Yeah, as long as you can get on top of him, I think the theory is that you're going to be okay, but even that, especially with Get Back all up in your business, is questionable. As waves get traded back and forth, EGP, they're looking for their own fight, but Get Back with so much safety should be able to get out just fine. Quickness does get popped, and Daption continues to search for Get Back, but
just Shirelias.
doesn't actually find him. Just the Shirelias, yeah.
So he still has quickness for this team fight, but Perry may well win this. Get Back needs to commit.
It has to invest something. The flash will do it. No perfect execution used, and it keeps Get Back in the running for the fights later on. But now EGP are going to take the engage likely around this dragon. Niles has shown up, however, and it is a 4v4. Smite goes over to Odd Orange. Lantern takes him out. There's the quickness that we were looking for, but Daption gets instantly hooked. Has to pop the Zanyas. Hasn't stunned anybody just yet. And Niles already having used the Orange. Now it's Perry right on top of him. Popping the Crescent Guard. It is Perry against the Worlds. He jumps on top of Azog. Finishes him off. Turns his attention onto Niles, but he can't quite get the kill.
Get
and
back
now,
here.
with this Pirate ready to go, Faisal sitting up in front of Get Back. Still, you will have Sketch burning down, but Faisal now the one against the world as Leo tries to peel for him. Doesn't get that scat of the week though, and now ultimately goes down as Get Back and Niles clean up.
Oh, it's such a good fight from Maryville. They come away with the Ace, the Dragon, and 5 kills as well. A beautifully executed fight, all off the back of Shady, stifling the engage from EGP beautifully. They pick off Daption before the fight even begins and set themselves up exquisitely for that skirmish. They're going to be able to take the bot lane tier 2 and set themselves up nicely to move their vision up toward this top side rather. There's a lot of time now for Maryville to focus their efforts on this Baron. Niles still has the TP. He can stay in bot lane if he wants. This is that setup for the play. Notice they take this Drake before Leo is even anywhere near, before Perry can get in to smite. And that hook, the flay as well, perfectly timed. Again, just so strong. And then they find the hook onto Niles, or the charm, the stun rather. And it looks like they're maybe going to turn it around. Perry goes huge in the backline. Unfortunately, this GP just a little too massive. And then look at this top side. Get Back is just running rampant. Sketch has about 150 HP the last time he gets touched by damage. The Sakali build does not take any prisoners. It takes him down as well. And then the 2 solo laners of each squad going head to head. Unfortunately, at this late stage, the Akali with the Bruiser S build and Niles with 3 items is just far too much.
Yeah, and it is just a series of, oh my lord, really painful plays.
Where are you?
That is another one. This time, we do get to see the 1v1 between the Rakan and the Gangplank, and surprise, surprise, it doesn't go to the Rakan, likely spelling the story of a lot more to come for Maryville.
Niles hasn't bought yet since that last fight. He's still sat on his 3 items with the Executioners. He's going to go back and buy a full thing. Maryville are probably on this Baron right now as well. TP ready for the GP. He's already expending it, and with no support to face check these wards, EGP are in trouble.
Perry can't really commit to the fight in the Baron pit either. Has to be peeling for his backline, and Get Back may very well go down, but the Baron has already gone to Odd Orange. Big shutdown goes to Perry, but this is Xin Zhao. Now is really, really struggling. He's strong, but he can only do one thing at a time, and that's where we see the weakness of it.
Oh, brutal for Get Back right there. Overall, right, Maryville, they get a kill, or they get 1 kill taken away, and they get the Baron. Overall, it is still incredibly worth, but they don't have their Baron on one of their split pushes. And also, Get Back, Shuriken flips toward the Lantern. The second Shady looks to try and put himself, or there's a second shade, he moves out of lantern range. So it's a little bit of miscommunication there, whether he can make it to that lantern or not. But still, overall, a very strong, positive play for Maryville. And as you can see there from the graphic from Macro Hard, that Maryville, they turned this game within a very small space of time, about a minute and a half, and they were, sat about 1,000 gold down, and then all of a sudden exploded this game.
So now we're in a position where Maryville, after spending most of the game at a gold disadvantage, now finally have the Baron on 4 of the members. They've got some really big hyperscalers. From here, how can they take this and actually turn it into a winning game for them?
They have 3 turrets on the outside of the base, and I think that those are objective priority number 1 here. Economy turrets, as I like to call them here, they all give you some fairly decent gold toward the team. And when you have the Baron as well, it's sort of the one counter to Ziggs. That's the reason that mid-tier 1 still stands, is that Ziggs has just sat there, wait cleared for 20 minutes or so. But EGP, they have priority control in the mid lane, and they're going for the base right now. This is a base race between Maryville. They've got Baron on the top side. And Getback's going to have to run some real interference here. Without a wave, it looks like EGP are going to have to concede. But they've already got an inhibitor. So for EGP, not too bad so far. Let's see what Maryville get in response.
Yeah, it's a trade that honestly may not look the best at face value, but for EGP is finding some sort of win in a situation where they had no right to any. Perry looking for Get Back right here. I'm actually not sure who wins this 1v1, even though Get Back is up a level. Perry looks like he wants to find out, as does Get Back, chasing each other down. And surprisingly, it's because Get Back has a little bit of backup on the way, even as Perry tries desperately to fight him off. This just is not an even fight. Perry may still get this. The wind turns into lightning, and Get Back goes down. Perry now with another 1v1 that turns into a 1v2 and likely a 1v3. Azog committing the ultimate to pick him off. But EGP, they get that nice little style kill as well as the inhibitor tower. They lose an inhibitor for it, but it isn't the worst thing in the world. They are keeping themselves relevant.
How broken is Red Smite, by the way? He used it twice in that fight. Get Back kited out the first one beautifully. Didn't expect the double charge Red Smite to come through to hand the fight in the favor of Perry right there. Again, really nicely dueled out between the two of them, and nice respect to see them go full force for it. It does give Perry his GA and opens up Xin Zhao to a lot more tanky capabilities. Unfortunately, though, it means you don't have your jungler open when the Drake spawns, and naturally you would say that gives Maryville an advantage to secure the objective. Their issue is they've got absolutely no vision, particularly in the river. They can see a lot of stuff in the bot side jungle of EGP. The river itself, completely dark.
Still a lot of really good data for them, though. They know that Perry isn't here just yet, and it makes checking this river a lot safer than it would otherwise have been. With Shady and Azog able to walk in, Maryville right the wrong of not having vision, and Get Back now thinking about jumping in on that flank. Well, he doesn't get the kills just yet, but he does end up buying enough time for Perry to be revealed going towards the top lane to clear out some of the minions. So Dragon ultimately going to go over to Maryville, and the game continues to slip further and further into their favor.
We're teetering a little bit on a knife's edge right here. We're at the point now where Niles is dead.
Lord.
Unfortunately, steps a little too far forward. Sketch, perfect satchel, sets him up and just takes him down, right? Niles has the flash, doesn't respect that if I get satcheled back here, I could be in a lot of trouble, and that could be the kill that breaks open a large window here for EGP. Niles is going to be a large source of this Maryville squad's wave clear, and 3 people charging up through the mid lane right now. They've got TP available on the Ziggs. They can break open something here. The inhibitor likely to fall once again. And this is the point where Azog, yes, your poke is pretty strong on this Kai'Sa right now, but don't know how much he's going to be able to defend against when EGP, they're going for the game.
Yeah, for the first time in a long time, you can take a fight. You do not want to give up time without Niles, but Perry gets stunned up in the front line. He gets to recommit, helping out his team against Get Back and Odd Orange. Get Back stays alive, ends up getting out to safety, but Perry in the front line is just immortal. He's tanking up both Shady and Azog.
They're taking the base.
Jumps right past him with Perry, Leo, and Sketch, though finally focusing on this base. The Nexus ends up falling, and EG rob Maryville of a game that was slowly but surely set up in their favor.
And that is the power of an LCS organization. It feels like one misstep, one slight overextension from Niles, and they lose the game. Those are the types of mistakes that haunt you. Those are the situations that you feel incredibly bad about. But oh my word, EGP, they just put their foot to the throat right there, and they capitalize their ability to spot the smallest misstep. Sketch, with that satchel charge, literally wins them the game.
It was incredible how quickly the game turned, and it was because everything from the early game was set up on these very small differences between the players, between information especially, that went in the favor of EGP more often than not. Their vision control, and honestly, despite having gone down a few times, that Daption's ability to really make sure that they were set up with as much knowledge as possible going into fights, and even going into picks like that, let them walk away with that win, and they looked good doing it. But the thing is, so did Maryville, so they may just find themselves a win upon our return. In the meantime, though, as EGP found themselves a pretty nice leg up in the series, you too can find yourself a leg up in gaming. If you're looking to upgrade your gamer gear, you can look no further. Start your 2022 off right with official Unified Esports merchandise brought to you by Skulls. Hoodies, joggers, jerseys, armbands, and a lot more coming soon. You have skill, now get the swag. Skulls.com/collections/unified has everything that you know. Everything that you need. Gear up, game on with Skulls.
Well, that was a game of League of Legends that we just witnessed. Evil Genius Prodigies! Maryville, what an end to a game!
They clutched it out, boys! The Prodigies!
Wow.
They did it! I can't believe that. Oh my god. There's so much stuff that just happened in front of our eyes. But
wow.
they won game one! They did it. Niles died one time, and it's over.
Yeah, and I mean, I was so curious what these teams were going to bring in draft, and it was like two completely different comps.
Yeah.
And man, I mean, I guess we could start with the early game. I mean, all right, okay, we have the draft here. So like with the draft, it's just EG went for double mage carries and Zinzao Renekton. Honestly, I wasn't too much of a fan of picking Syndra with Ziggs, but you could still make it work. It's obviously you just got to be more efficient. And then on the Maryville side, they have a lot of setup. Jarvan Thresh is it's like one of my favorite support jungle combos. You can cover so much distance with Flag and Dragon Lantern. But the main thing that I didn't see was Maryville not really using that early game. This game was very, it was 0-0 until 7 minutes, I believe. And I would prefer to have Maryville to like maybe burn some flashes, flash for flash, and get some value off your level 6 Cataclysm from Jarvan. That didn't really come through. It became it kind of went blow for blow at one point. It was just, I mean, we can get into it once we have the replays. The Herald was a big thing. MU got the first dragon, but they couldn't keep stacking them, which is, I think, is a really important thing against, you know, these champions like Thresh and Jarvan, which you can just hold control really easily. I would have liked for them to stack the dragons. That wasn't really possible given how the game went. EG Prodigies really good. I mean, they got Renekton ahead. They did what they had to. The game went so hectic. I mean, Niles was up 100 CS at the end of the game or something. I mean, it went all over the place. So, I mean, maybe Smacks, you want to take like the first replay I think we have here, or
the first 10 minutes of this game being so slow is really crazy, knowing what happened in the rest of it. Like, every single time in this tournament that I see, like, Xinjia versus Jarvan, they both full clear and they're level 4, and they're like, alright, I'm gonna recall. I just get a little bit sad. And no offense to Odd Orange and Perry, like, it's a fine strategy to wait until you're stronger, but just get in there, man. Get some gangs going.
You know what? One of the junglers is to say, you know what? I'm taking both crabs. I'm going to walk through mid, and I'm going to cause an altercation. So that did not happen. But maybe we have like the Herald replay here. We can bring that up. Obviously, with Ziggs, it's honestly a very snowbally champ if you're able to consistently push in your lane. That didn't really happen. Daption got chunked out level 1, and then, I mean, Thresh even had a timing to go top level 2 to prevent the dive, if anyone saw that. So MU was very like guarded or early game. Maybe they could have been a little bit more proactive. It seemed like they wanted to defend the GP. Maybe that was their game plan. For the Herald, it's for EGP, like, you know, it's objective with Ziggs where, you know, you can just randomly in 3 minutes with the Herald, you can take like 8 plates if you have snowballing lanes. Like, we've all been in those games where Ziggs just gets like 30 plates, 50 plates, and it's just, wow, they're up 6k gold at 14 minutes. That wasn't the case this game. It was very slow early game into just, I don't even know what was happening at one point. I mean, the ending was crazy. This is the second Herald. I mean, Smacks, you can take this away. I know you want to talk about this.
This is what happens when you combine Rift Herald and Ziggs, right? You just get to take every single turret off of the map. The Evil Genius's Prodigies actually did get to do this with the second Rift Herald. The first one, though, they used in the top lane, completely apart from Ziggs. So Sketch actually didn't get to participate that much in the siege up until this point. And they were able to get that and the Drake at the same time, which is a really big deal for Evil Genius's Prodigies. But they weren't actually able to get Ziggs off the ground, and putting Niles a little bit far behind in terms of gold to Renekton didn't actually do that much. I'm sure if you looked at the gold at that time, Niles, on Gangplank with his Parlay passive, probably wasn't even that far behind, even though he was 5 plates behind. So I would bet that it didn't actually like have that much of an impact on how Niles was feeling in that game. And you can see that because he ended up with full build. And he's the only one in the whole game with it. So
he was the one catching a lot of the side waves as well, while EG was trying to find these group timings. EG, they did get 2 mid turrets off that, but MU's comp, they don't really have like a control mage. They have a lot of champions. GP is good at side lane, like he could just barrel the wave and run. Akali's really hard to catch, same with Kai'Sa. So we slowly saw MU get like a lead. They had like a 2-3k lead at one point just from CS, and they took like a couple better fights. But the one thing that was kind of disheartening was MU had like a really good stranglehold, I feel like, especially around the first Herald. They had the setup, like you know, this is a veteran team, or like pretty experienced roster. I mean, they've been in Collegiate for a while. They were there at the Herald first. They were there set up with Thresh and Jarvan. And I feel like normally at that point, it's like okay, the enemy team is like really it's a very hard position to be in, but MU kind of, I feel like they over committed into an engage, and they lost a lot of their control, and Perry's Xin Zhao ult just got like such tremendous value, and it just completely, like, one of the concepts is, you know, you just got to stay in your control, and MU, they kind of left their control and they left their fog of war, and they just pressed way too many of their buttons when they needed to just not press as many buttons and just take the free cooldowns. It's very hard, you know, like, you got to be on sync with your teammates, like, oh, my Thresh threw a hook, like, just pile in, but it's like, no, just get his ult, like, that we're fine, you know, we could just go take the free Herald now. You know, you gotta, like, read your teammates' minds and trust them, and we didn't really see that too cleanly. There was also the Jarvan play where Jarvan, like, EQs Raptors while Thresh is going for a play. So I would like to see that a little bit more cleaned out. Hopefully MU can get their heads back on and, you know, like, not tilt not tilt from these whatever that loss was. But yeah, let's pull up this replay here.
Yeah, we got a replay here to
Yeah, we
actually
got a
show some of the
couple.
early game shenanigans that was going on inside of this. We talked quite a bit about it, and it was just a big fiasco. And this is a little bit of a plan being made, but not all the pieces were there.
Oh yeah,
they could even go in
what we were
Xin
talking
here
about
as
before,
well.
yeah.
Like, they just got to do the same thing, and it's just you hate to see it, because, like, they're there, you know, they're doing the right thing, and it's like, I feel so bad even criticizing them, because it's like, they're right there, they're doing everything so well, and then they, like, flop it last second, and then look here, you know, they lose mid pressure, they're not even shoving in bottom. It's like, what is Kaiser doing in this situation, you know? Like, it seems very unsynchronized, and I would just like for Maryville to, you know, have someone to, like, bring the team together to be more in sync.
Yeah, this is the bit we were mentioning before as well, where they were they had to give up that Drake and they lost the top turret at the same time. Like, all that pressure cascading onto Niles, so he can't really take part in that team fight, and they were going for some picks at the same time. There's just a lot of stuff happening at the same moment against Maryville, and it led to them having that sort of scatter early game that we usually see them have a pretty clean time engaging and having a really solid plan and executing on that stage of the game.
And we got to see the chaos unfold. The pressure ended up eventually getting onto Maryville. One moment is all it took. One opportunity is all EGP needed, and I mean, we got to see it coming in full stride. This is actually a different play where they ended up catching them out at the end. This is the beginning of all the chaos.
So this play is really hilarious because Perry and Getback are just completely 1v1ing. Honestly, like, I respect Perry a lot for this one. It is tunnel vision. So, like, in retrospect, this is definitely not the play to go for because you're giving up a lot of Drake pressure, and he does actually end up losing
this is Soul
his
for
team to
EG.
Drake. Yeah, exactly. So it's a pretty big struggle, especially considering Akali can TP, and then the rest of this fight as well makes it even worse. Like, you've used your entire Rakan engage to get Thresh hooked and then die. And then Sketch is forced into a really bad corridor as well. He's not able to really do anything in this team fight. He wants to be, you know, stationary behind his team, being that artillery mage, but he ends up just dying to get back's burn damage. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah, the Akali just TPs back in, and then Xin has to walk back in, and it's free access. You know, it's easy pick'ems at that point for Akali. And I thought after that fight, I was like, okay, they have a double mage, they have Zig Syndra, like, it's gonna be really hard to win the game now. I'm not sure, do we have the clip for the ending of what happened? Because it, like, I was literally right, like, I was talking, I was like, oh, they're gonna, like, it's such a hard game for EG now, and then just half a second, and just GP dies, and then I was like, oh, wait, honestly, are they just gonna end her here? Like, kind of jokingly. And they just, like, corralled mid. I was like, oh, they're gonna do it. And I was like, this is the best thing to do because your comp is kind of, you know, you're down a lot of gold. Enemy team has 2 mountains. Then they said, screw it, let's just get it over with right now. It's kind of a flip, but it worked out. I mean, Ziggs is a menace at destroying turrets, so.
Yeah. I think everybody knows how it feels when the Ziggs is just popping off inside those turrets, being the saboteur that he was born to be. But we have a game 2 coming up. Before we send it over to the casters, I'm going to ask you guys real quick. Smats, how are you feeling? Game 2, anything you'd like to see?
Well, I'm feeling better than Maryville probably is after that one. That was a bit of a throw by the end. I'm sure Niall's kicking himself for not flashing out of that engage. It always feels really bad, you know, being the carry and dying one time and then the Nesix explodes before you can even really pop off. So I hope they can bounce back. This is what plagued them in their series against Taco Gaming. They had a really strong lead and then they threw it. Hopefully they have learned from that mistake and they can come back and keep the mental strong.
Osama, anything for you going into game 2?
I would like a game 3 if MU can could somehow get themselves together after that loss. That's a very tilting loss. So I would like to see what MU can bring out. I would like for like different drafts, honestly. I'm not too sure about. I didn't really like the drafts too much, but we'll see it. We'll see how it goes.
All right. Well, with that being said, the casters are ready. So, Dia, Rudu, take it away.
Thank you so much, folks. Our analyst desk, as always, superstars. And I gotta say, Rudude, I agree with Osama in one thing. I do want to see a game 3. I'm hoping that we get that. Well, the other thing that he said is that he didn't like the draft, and we got Gangplank in draft, so I couldn't really full commit to agreeing with him there. But game 3 I want to see.
I do as well, right? And I think that we are set up perfectly to have it because that game was so timidly set up for the early game, and then all of a sudden we had explosions left, right, and center. And those explosions landed in, all of the pieces just landed in the exact same position. It was like there was this extremely close team fight, and then everything kind of kept the same. And I'm hoping that we get more of the same, more of that, when everything just keeps itself nice and consistent between the two teams, where we just get that one single moment that decides a game. It feels rough for either team, but still, we're diving right on in here. We've got a draft on our hands.
Yes, it do, Rudin. We are jumping all the way in. Jinx already picked up, and we're thinking about Nidalee, so it's a very different game already. In large part,
we're locking in Nidalee.
Now was taken away. Let's go! We've got Nidalee, and that is so terrifying. A Nautilus as well. Maryville are so upset this game.
Okay, so Nidalee locked on in here, right? I think that the style of Odd Orange is exemplified by a Nidalee pick, because last game we saw him try to be aggressive in the early stages, didn't really work out, but was still able to find usage throughout the team fights, as the Jarvan does. Nidalee, if you're behind and you don't get that early snowball, you become a very scary champion for yourself to be trying to pilot. So a lot of pressure on Odd Orange this game. I love the support pairing with the Nautilus as well, because if you two pair up, move yourself around Summoner's Rift, the Nautilus CC is ample enough time for a Nidalee to land a spear, get that hunted damage down, and really start to put you in the dirt. On the other side of things, we have got EGP locked in the gold standard for bot lane duos, the Thresh and Aphelios for Sketch and Daption. Always been impressed by Sketch on this. Aphelios has been pumping out damage in teamfights left, right, and center, and also was able to win the game for his team last time out. So this guy obviously needs not really any introduction. And also a little callback to our previous match. If you noticed, one of the player cards there was that if Azog could pick any champion to play for the rest of his life, it would be Jinx. So it's good to see he's got his hands on what is undoubtedly a comfort pick here.
Thus it emerges. Maryville, like we said, definitely coming out swinging really hard, more so than they did in game 1. And that was with a Gangplank pick. So if you can imagine us leveling things up even further past that, that's exactly where we're going. EGP, on the other hand, do feel like they have a lot more autonomy, and it's mostly because of the Aphelios pick that we see this time around. Sketch didn't have his choice of AD carries last time, was bullied into the Ziggs throughout the course of the draft, and now that EGP have a little bit more comfortability down in the more southern part of the Rift, I'm expecting them to have a lot more priority there as well. So much of the game last time was about Daption roaming around, and this time I want to see the map come towards EGP's bot lane a little bit more.
And I think it can do. I think that they've set themselves up lovely for that, to have this Jarvan try and facilitate your Aphelios. Sets themselves up nicely. Faisal is a very strong top laner in his own right, and I think we'll be able to handle Niles here on whatever we end up seeing. This draft in itself, a lot more stock, a lot more standard, honestly. We've got jungle and bot lane, which is what we tend to see from everything. Outside of that Nidalee pick, it is pretty much as anticipated. And okay, now I will wait, because I can talk about those, but this is This is something that could be very entertaining. Renekton is a blind pick in the top lane, presumably can also be sort of flexed into the mid lane if there's a good matchup for it, but the sort of staple answer for the blind picks of top laners, the Jace comes through as an answer for Niles, so taking the, well, not necessarily counter pick, but a good matchup for Niles as well, something that he's been very comfortable on again throughout to go into this top lane with. Interesting.
Pretty heavy poke there at the end there with the Jace and the Zoe and EGP. Will they figure out their answer to this? I want to highlight the Jace pick specifically, and more about what it says about Faisal than what it says about Niles. Because Niles, of course, great top laner, amazing guy. We saw him on the Gangplank last game. We're going to see him on the Jace. But with the Renekton constantly being locked in for Faisal, Maryville really wanted to win the top side, and I think Niles does as well, because people have been talking up Faisal time and time again, and if you're able to come out even or ahead onto Niles, one of the premier top laners of Amateur, this is a huge statement for Faisal, who, like we said, is very much coming up in the scene. With a Victor locked in last, of course, Leo will have a chance to shine as well, a champion that we really didn't get to see last game, but definitely another hyperscaler.
Slipped right the way through last time out, but now we get to see it. Jarvan and Victor, again, another really nice mid-jungle duo here for EGP. The Chaos Storm inside a Cataclysm will melt through absolutely anybody, particularly on this Maryville squad, since their front line consists currently of a Nautilus. And with this composition, there's absolutely no doubt that we know what Maryville are looking to do. If they ever get engaged upon, they're probably going to lose. If they're able to, though, however, buy their space, keep themselves outside of the Maryville engage rate, outside of the EGP engage range, their composition is going to poke, and it's going to poke hard because they've got literally all 4 carries with a way of trying to connect that long-range source of damage, right? We've got Paddle Star, Shock Blast, Spear, Super Mega Death Rocket, Zap even if you want to go a little bit more of a basic cooldown. Pick potential for Maryville through the roof.
Yeah, in very different ways, it focuses me on the jungle matchup this time around, because like you talked about, if Maryville are getting engaged on, they're probably not winning. You know who's going to be engaging? Probably Perry. He's got that Jarvan here, has a really long engage range, and unless that Thresh is landing miracle hooks, the Jarvan is your most consistent source of it. On the other side of this, Maryville, in a totally different way, have the jungle focus on them because of the Nidalee, because of what you talked about earlier, that need to get ahead on this Nidalee, to be able to bring us to the game 3 that you, myself, and Osama all really want.
Yeah, I think that everybody wants, because game number 1 obviously incredibly close. We want to get 3 action-packed games of that. I do want to, sort of say that or sort of the fail-safe, obviously, for both of these teams will be down in that bot lane, because they've got the 2 really hard scaling marksmen down on that bot side of Summoner's Rift. We've got a fairly decent laning phase for the Jinx. Obviously, was previously the answer in Season 11 when we saw LPL. I know a lot of the AD carries over there, and particularly Gumayushi in T1 as well over in the LCK. I would love to pull the Jinx out into the Aphelios as an answer, because in the laning phase, at the very least, Aphelios has himself, at level 9, Jinx has something like 75 range over the Aphelios when he's got Sniper Gun. If not, you're an entire 150 range, 125 range, outranging Sketch on the AD carry. So you can very easily keep this Aphelios at arm's distance, and particularly when you don't have things like boots, the get excited isn't going to be happening quite so frequently. Auto spacing down in the bot lane is actually something that wins you games, wins you trades, wins you lanes. So getting that extra range is really going to be important for the Maryville bot lane, and they've got the sort of bad end of the support matchup. I know that people have been, or rather that I call JJ for popularized the whole Thresh. You're able to counter Nautilus here. He can't find that hook on you if you stand in front of your AD carry. So there are a few little back and forths between the bot lane, but those are your sort of fail-safes for both of these teams as we go into the late game.
Well, let's jump into the game. Fail-safes or no, it is all on the line, especially for Maryville, who find themselves down a game. EGP right on the precipice of being able to send themselves into the playoffs here in the very first Proving Grounds qualifier. This is big for both these teams, and especially for Maryville here. One of the things that they needed to change from last game in order to come out with the win is going to be focused largely around that vision. EGP had such excellent control of being able to track Odd Orange at every single point last game that's something that I'd like to see Maryville adapt to, especially to get this pick composition off the ground.
Is Sketch going to be able to... Yeah, he's fine. Okay, I was a little bit scared there. He's on Shady pairing up to potentially try and force a flash, but they do get out to safety ultimately. Level 1, fairly stock, fairly standard. It's good to see that Daption puts down that support ward, the bot lane ward right now, to make sure that there's no 2 level 1 skirmish that sort of ruins them like the previous matchup. And when it happened then. And already, I expect to see Maryville try and find some fairly early skirmishing. And you can see, level 1, they're forcing the issue a little bit here. The vision just a little bit deeper for the Nidalee than anything the Jarvan was able to put down. But he will have Sweeper up potentially to take that out. So, yes, he's going to be spotted, but the odds are that he's going to be knowing that he's spotted, and effectively that may well cancel it out a little bit, and they can operate under that information here. Both junglers pathing toward the bot lane, you have to assume, starting up on their top side. So, as we say, those insurance policies for the late game, getting a little bit of investment early on.
Yeah, Perry, just at the moment, we know was spotted at. However, down here on the bot side, we are already fighting. Daption does get that initial flay, but goes relatively low after taking the ignite. Sketch and Azog still battling it out as well, and Sketch ends up coming out a little worse for wear. Well, Shady's got that hook back up. He ends up connecting with Sketch, burning not just that heal, but maybe even the flash. Daption actually having to flash very quickly as well, and Azog and Shady, no summoner. Sketch just has the flash available, and we are going all out in bot lane.
Yeah, health pool-wise, this is an advantage from Maryville, but summoner spells, it's actually EGP that come out on top. Sketch still has his flash. Look who's in the bot lane sooner. Perry, red buff into the bot side of the map, immediately looking to try and respond, to try and help out his team where possible. He's been able to go back into his jungle, and it does actually give a little bit of a window for Odd Orange to find just the slightest advantage here. Overall, not the worst situation for EGP. They also still have their flash. They're able to force the wave under the turret, get themselves what is effectively a cheater recall.
Nice.
The issue is, they were fighting so much that the CS wasn't quite there, so the base is actually just a refillable potion instead of, you know, a long sword, a dagger, or some boots or something. But still, a good time to find the reset, get those health pools back, where Maryville won't be able to respond, and already, Daption out on the map, looking to try and find something somewhere else, at least, on the Rift.
Yeah, some really critical sustain now on board. In the meantime, with Get Back being able to lay down a little bit of vision up towards the top side, Maryville find themselves in the position the EGP were in last game. They know exactly where Perry is, and it's keeping their bot lane safe. It's keeping everyone safe, and it may very well be killing Daption as we get a bunch of pings being laid down towards the bottom end of the Rift. And Odd Orange is going on an aggressive invade, already up 4 CS on this. Nidalee going to make it 8 very much right now with the pickup of the Rift Scuttle, but it is all about getting this Nidalee a little bit more momentum, and right now that is something they have in spades.
So we'll be able to likely take the golems and get back to base. Probably going to be ahead of Perry in terms of the tempo of the game, because he's only got one more camp to clear out, and maybe odds even be that Perry doesn't get to a crab on the top side, so may have to sort of lose out a little bit in his gold for taking a slightly better back timing to be out on the map. You see the way that this wave in the top side is slowly pushing toward Maryville is going to be a little bit of a concern for Faisal up in this top lane, as Odd Orange is, instead of going back to base, making his way down into this bot lane. No flash on Daption means he's an incredibly easy target to try and focus.
Shady's already set up for the hook as well. There it connects, and the Chompers right behind him give you no way out. First blood goes to Odd Orange, the creative pathing, the early fighting of the bot lane. It all leads up to this.
And I wondered if they were going to go for a dive there. Azog, they had the opportunity to just hold the wave and, you know, let it push back out, but they don't. They push forward, unable to find the dive though. Odd Orange looking to try and get back to his topside jungle, which is currently being taken by Perry. A bit of a window of opportunity, a little bit capitalized on here by the Jarvan in the jungle. Let's wait and see if Orange can get here in time.
Get it! Oh my god, he got it! That's so ridiculous!
Oh no.
Able to get away with that. Now Perry in a lot of trouble. No drag either. This is going to be a lot of damage taken by him. Flashes away from Odd Orange, but like you say, he may very well be gone. A little bit of assistance over the wall from Niles. Odd Orange not able to pick up the kill just yet, but flashes over the wall to answer back on Perry. And this Nidalee is so scary and so in charge of your top side.
Dia, what did we say about top play? What did we say about the jungle here? Odd Orange needed to find success. His first base, Sorcerer shoots for the penetration, Dark Seal for the snowball. He is looking to get this game off to the races here. He got first blood down in the bot lane after his duo were scrapping it out left, right, and center, and he's already got 2 stacks on that Dark Seal after a little bit of a fumble from Perry. Good to see that he's immediately here to shadow his top laner and mean that he can pick up a few minions.
Nice.
And look at this already. Both supports already on the top side of the map. This game is being played around the junglers, not the junglers playing around this game.
Yeah, I was hoping we would get some attention towards the bot side, but I guess I'm not going to get that. They're just going all the way back up top. Maryville really want to put Feistel on the ground, but he's able to escape once again, and props to him for absorbing so much pressure from not just Odd Orange, but Shady as well. Over on the bot side, repercussions aren't really being felt either. Both AD carries look at each other and go, all right, you're alone too? I get it, man.
let's just have a nice time, okay?
Yeah.
We can farm peacefully. We'll have a little symbiotic relationship for a couple minutes time here. And, you know, it's good to see as well that not just Maryville trying to force so much issue on the top side, but that, as you mentioned, nothing is lost on this bot side. The repercussions of it are that they lose their Raptors. Azog, quite wisely, walks forward, takes out the Krugs of his own jungler to, you know, not even counter jungle, but to just make sure that they're not stolen away as well. It is going to give Perry a little bit of time to go back to his own jungle now and clear up, but guess what? This is time. The Odd Orange can be out on the map. The Odd Orange can be affecting his team, affecting plays, and starting out some more chaos. Overall, Sketch currently out in front in those AD carries in the bot lane, so you have to bear that in mind.
Nicely the trouble bubble. A little bit more damage for a get back here. Not going to hurt, especially as this dragon is up pretty soon, and Odd Orange is right in place with the wave crashing in mid lane. Maryville are instead going to use that little bit of an advantage to try and go for a dive. Not going to find that, but they do find Perry, so why not go for him instead? Odd Orange takes away the jungle camps, already a level up here, ends up spelling his demise as Shady secures the last auto, but this Nidalee so terrifying. Now the jungler, now his jungler, now his jungle, now the dragon, likely all gonna go the way of Maryville.
Yeah, Shady secures that with the rapid fire cannon auto, apparently, as Perry's actually sliding away and just gets a 400 range auto attack. Dragon is going to be the price that ETP have to pay.
Nice.
Get back bullying.
Oh, nice. He actually might get him here. Ignite comes down and Get Back picks up the kill underneath the tower, getting away from that Chaos Storm with the extra movement speed. Maryville are getting everything right now, and this is completely different from what we saw in Game 1. They are so aggressive here, and it looks so good.
Yeah, remember your way back to the draft. We said, A, that they needed to be aggressive. Check number one. But their solo lane counter pick went to the top lane. Leo had his answer in the mid lane, and Get Back is outperforming on it. He took this Zoe blind, saying, I don't care what your answer is, I will best you on it. And this is the exact reason why. Flashes forward, Ignite goes down, fade away underneath the turret, underneath the Chaos Storm, underneath the Gravity Well. He does not care. Solo kill in the mid lane. Absolutely beautiful for Get Back. And this is why I've been so high on this guy as a player. I really think he can be a contestant for the mid lane talent pool here in North America.
Already, very clearly, making this game a lot more difficult for EGP than I'm sure they wanted it to be. At this point, just one game away from sending themselves to playoffs. They have lost everything in the early game. 4 kills to nothing. A dragon gone the way of Maryville. A Rift Herald gone the way of Maryville. They might get their first kill here, however, as Daption ends up bringing Perry into the bot side, and Azog, well, he's gonna die. There's no two ways about that. Last auto secured by Daption, and a nice flash away as well. Should mean the EGP get that kill and may just get this turret as well.
Yeah, Sharkrams will melt through this one here, and I mean, I don't know what Shady's hoping to provide that Azog couldn't. It looks like just that brute tankiness is going to be what he's giving here. Leo, he's been forced to flash in that mid lane as well, so things going from bad to worse in the mid lane. EGP have got that saving grace of taking down the bot lane AD carry. And yes, the kill goes on to Daption, but it's a lot better than that overall. They're able to deny a lot of CS, a lot of gold into the Jinx, and Sketch comes back to lane with a distinct item advantage here. Gale Force versus just the components for the Jinx is going to give them a slight window of opportunity here to play around Sketch as this AD carry to potentially be that win condition. Remember, the fail-safes for both these teams rolls down to the bot lane, and when one fail-safe is ahead of the other, you know which one you're going to favour.
Yeah, this is really nice, honestly, just to get that little bit more insurance coming through. You're never going to be upset with an Aphelios that is a kill up, or even just that little bit of an item advantage. However, Maryville definitely do find themselves a little upset. Sketch flashing away is going to be put to sleep, but should still come out of this. Oh my lord alive! Never mind, a Super Mega Death Rocket spell the end of him very quickly. Now equalized in this bot side with Maryville still on a rampage. They're going to pick up a second kill, with Azog getting even more excited as the turret and 2 assists end up being his.
Just one misstep here. We saw it in game number 1, how detrimental it can be. In game number 1, it costed Maryville the game. Game number 2, it's going to cost EGP their bot lane turret and a lot of farm here that may well go to waste. It looks like Sketch is actually back up in time to collect the most of this, which is, you know, pretty good news for him, honestly, because that is a lot of gold that would have been going down the drain otherwise. But stepping up to the Nautilus, who is walking with purpose towards you. Sketch will probably only do that once this game, and he's just done it right there. So we'll have to wait and see if those adaptations do tend to come through. Gale Force and Flash Heal, still not enough to get you away from Get Back's paddle stars and his bubbles as well, which have just been absolutely lethal this game.
Almost wish we could get a replay on that, but in the meantime, I mean, Get Back will likely do it again. He has been threading these Sleepy Trouble bubbles through everything, sometimes even popping up into Leo's face and throwing him down point blank, which is particularly entertaining. But now, as he ends up clearing yet another mid lane wave, he gets to pop in and apply some pressure towards the jungle once again. Perry has been suffering all game, and right now is getting denied his top side. Faisal in trouble here as the entirety of the Maryville Goon Squad has showed up to take him down.
Okay, Shady starts this off and then Odd Orange hits.
Dominus popped, and oh my lord, with the Super Mega Death Rocket connecting, the flash gets expended, but Faisal still cannot survive. Sketch Streams is going to answer on the bot side, taking down their first tower of the game. EG do finally get that structure answered, but Maryville still very much in a commanding lead right now, being denied a few plates in the mid lane. Definitely a trade that EGP are happy with. However, Niles just as happy up top.
You know, I spoke to Jensen before this series, and he, I asked, okay, why have we opted into Orange and Azog this game? And I think that this is the perfect example for why they've chosen Orange. He came back and said, well, Orange is fairly aggressive. We like to use Azog as a complementing factor because he tends to temper that aggression. This game, he picked the Nidalee. I think that this is one where we're going to be saying, you know what, you do what you need to do to get ahead, and Orange has taken that to heart. Yeah, Proto Belt as well on the Nidalee, so any extra mobility that he can find, he's just taken for himself.
No one's getting away from that. At this point, you see Odd Orange, especially if he lands a spear on you, you're just dead, and that goes for anything. Champions, dragons, and holy moly Renekton's that end up taking spears for a third of their HP. Now the dragon gonna go down. Chemtech now falling means that Odd Orange gets that little bit of an edge and gets to reveal what soul we have next, what Maryville can continue terrorizing the Rift with. Good news. The EGP at least get to continue funneling gold into Sketch.
Yeah, and I really like this from them here. This is good heads-up play whenever you are behind. The best thing to do is just avoid the death ball that Maryville have got, and they're doing a good job at that. They are extending their lead on the Aphelios quite well. The question really becomes, what are they losing on the bot side? You know, they lost the Drake first of all, this tier 2 now under siege, and if they can defend it or not, it's going to be the operative question. Looks like Azog is probably going to get all 600 gold of this funneled into himself, because he has to get excited and just get away to safety.
Nice stuff from him. Still, though, 30 CS separating him and Sketch, no small thing, and actually likely equalizing quite a bit, if not entirely, back into the favor of Sketch. It is going to be a battle between these two late-game insurers. It seems, however, as the game continues going at this rate, does he really get... He's fine, he's fine.
I thought he was going to BM interrupt. You know, that is like the epitome of when you're bored on Jinx. You just start firing ults to interrupt people. But this time, unfortunate miss. He got some good rockets, though. To be fair, he nailed one onto... Literally killed Sketch with his last one. Made sure that it was a 5-man assist onto Faisal in the top lane as well, so... You're allowed one.
That was pretty wild.
And that was a pretty non-impact.
I like the cross-map rocket there as well. This guy is definitely seasoned on the Jinx, living up to the comment card from the first game. However, it's definitely not just him. There's an army up towards the top side once again. And Perry, probably going to die here, does end up flashing away, but now everything is going to connect, and he is going to die. There is no two ways about it. You see the Nidalee on your screen? You're already gone.
Yeah, pick potential. It's what Maryville have got, and it means that when they walk forward into your jungle and you don't have vision to spot them out, those things can happen on repeat. And now, yeah, they don't have the depth charge, but things like hook into snare from a Nautilus tends to be more than enough time. And I'm really glad to see, once again, Maryville using that jungle support duo. When you've got an Italy that is this far ahead, it is a lethal duo here. You only need one source of damage to take one person down, the Nautilus to set it all up. And Maryville, they've got themselves a really good point right now, and we'll have to wait and see if they can close it out for them. They've done all of the good things that I would like to see them do to start closing it out. It's force your way into the jungle, take vision, find those picks, find those pockets, and when you've got a Mountain Soul, it's not the biggest win condition, but we expect them to be able to take that within the next 7 or 8 minutes or so, just dependent on when those respawns end up coming through. And you can see already that their objective control should be very good. Poke reigns supreme at these objectives, and once Baron gets in their back pocket, that's going to be the hard part. Once it's in there, once they can start sieging with this composition, they are going to be loving life.
Yeah, then you got absolutely nothing to worry about. In the meantime, though, you do definitely have to be concerned about this, with Faisal slicing his way out away from Shady. This support on Maryville definitely not taking things slow. Daption, however, does answer with a hook right back, and Niall's going to go low and even going to be taken down for the Infernum Moonlight Vigil. Sketch picks up that kill, continues stacking up gold for two teams that do really like late-game team fighting. I gotta say, Maryville are doing well, but they are not out of the woods yet.
They are not, and getting more gold onto Sketch is AEGP's dream right now. That shutdown and the gold that is given over as a cost of it, going all the way into Sketch's back pockets, is exactly what they want to see. They've even got a bit of a window up on this top side where the waves weren't particularly answered by Maryville, and Leo has caught himself up a little bit further to his mid lane counterpart, still down in levels. There's a big bubble hits. Will there be a response?
Oh my lord. Well, a lot of damage going to Connect. Objective Bounty did go over, though, and Perry should be able to survive, but as Get Back just jumps over the wall, he's going to say absolutely not to that. Objective Bounty pretty much equalized now, as Perry, unfortunately, did go down, but we did manage to pick up another one inside of the mid lane. Faisal, once again, recognizing that Shady is not going to leave him alone, does try and get out over the wall, and looks like he's going to make it out, if only barely.
Yes, by the skin of his little crocodilian teeth, does manage to break over the wall. What is that always going to be?
Now he might be dead. Dominus does get popped. There he goes. Get back. Plenty of damage into him. Does pick up the kill. And Azog going wild underneath the tower as well. Reduces Daption to a mere half HP. As Leo tries to play dodgeball underneath his tower. He's not going to get out in time. Instead, eats a bunch of damage going to sub 100 HP. And Odd Orange still relatively healthy in comparison to the entirety of the EGP roster. Should be able to back off truly nicely onto this Dragon Mountain coming up, and with the Rift Herald dropped in the mid lane, Maryville are going to collect so much.
Insult to injury right there. The good body blocking from Perry honestly keeps his mid laner alive, but that's of little consequence. You're going to end up losing mid-tier 2, charge on mid-tier 3, and the Drake as well. Soul point now going over to the Maryville squad. Really good start for them here, and with the soul point now in their favour, with this 5,000 gold lead, we expect them to be able to continue snowballing here. 2 Dark Seals that are almost fully stacked. Get back on Odd Orange have really not been missing all that frequently, and with these skill shots, it's incredibly important. The question now becomes if they can continue to snowball and continue to try and close out this game. We're not even at a time where Baron exists in this game, and that's one of these situations where you think to yourselves, well, what now? Because they've taken literally everything outside of EG Prodigy's base. They've even had a Herald charge onto the base itself. And typically you think, well, now we'll go turret. But that's just not an option.
Yeah, at this point, you gotta wait at least for the next 45 seconds. We're pretty darn close, and Maryville are taking this as an opportunity to gather a little bit more gold, get their waves in the right position, because they, as well as you and I, have seen this before. They know that Baron really is going to be the be-all and end-all. EGP have got to have that data too, but Shady, once again, going on the roam into the enemy jungle, laying down the Vision is going to be the difference maker, as Vision has been time and time again. Last game, it was the Daption story, being able to constantly set EGP up for success, and this time, Maryville have really worked together extraordinarily to set themselves up for this next Baron. Even flank it around EGP right now. They could go for an engage. I wonder if they'll do that or if they'll have mercy.
And I want to, well, again, draw your attention, our path to LCS. This series is indeed a banger, thank you very much. And I'm expecting game number 3, Orange. Could be caught, but who's actually caught here?
There is a Cataclysm down, so engagement has followed, but flash away means that EGP now really have no way to close the gap. Faisal trying desperately to get a stun, does end up baiting in the hook from Shady, and as he goes down, Azog still gets the chance to pop off alongside Get Back. Leo going solo as well, gets crit directly to the Kisser. He falls down, and Perry just barely able to get out, ends up leaving the sleepy Trouble Bubble to land onto Sketch. He disappears, and Maryville, after having claimed 3 of EGP lives, now get to back off onto the Baron they set up ages ago.
That's the definition of a wallet slap right there. We said in the draft that if EGP get on top of Maryville, they're going to have a good time. Unfortunately, they're just too far behind right now. They've just got too much damage, and that insurance policy of Azog, he was put down a little bit in the early stages, got dove a couple times, but not quite enough to keep him out of the game, out of the lurchers. It is going to be the Baron going over to Billy. Objective after objective, kill after kill. And you can see, look, Orange potentially caught out, and they even get this nice engage on. There's Trouble Bubble, connects onto your front line. Again, beautiful. They got this 5-man death pack that they can roam through the jungle with, but it's just the long-range poke. Azog is able to free hit this entire time, and yes, they're able to take down the support, but that is of little consequence when your mid laner gets bubbled, and then Azog here holds his flash, which is incredibly good. Look at Get Back's bubble. The no look, and then this is just AD carry in season 2022. Holy moly.
I actually feel really bad for him, but at the same time, man, that was fun to watch.
Yeah.
Maryville, the coordination on deleting Sketch from the game, they knew exactly the hand that can feed EGP at this point, and right now, there aren't a whole lot of options for EGP. They haven't got the summoners, they haven't got the manpower to contest this soul that's coming through, and instead, they are eating spears, or at least just barely dodging them.
How do you get into the river if you're EGP? Because you're checking into areas that you have no vision in. One control ward over the wall is all that there is, and Maryville, they don't catch Leo, which is a good thing, but they're trying to, you can tell that EGP, when they're trying to walk through this choke, they're just going to get bombarded by everything, and when Maryville still have this Baron, there's no reason that they can't just break open the base hands down, and this inhibitor is going to easily fall because, guess what? Siege composition is much akin to a poke composition, and that's exactly the sort of style that Maryville has opted into this game with this lead. They're sparing no expense.
Get back. Could get a kill here. Daption solo and Azog threading the needle once again with that death rocket. This is why you do not give Azog Jinx, and I'd be surprised if you're giving Zoe over to Get Back anytime soon either. Maryville terrifying with this composition on these players, and EGP are floundering for answers, sending 3 into the mid lane. Well, their base is going to get sieged down.
Oh, he's just flashed!
Shady, nice hook. Then that's another deletion. There's just no way that you get out, and Maryville have so much free reign. Dragon is coming up, and they don't even care. They get to take down this inhibitor. Azog completely unafraid, and with Faisal on a flank, Para going for a 4-man cataclysm. Will it be enough? Faisal has gone in, and well, he did end up getting a lot of damage. No kills have come through just yet. Instead, Daption jumping away, just barely. Not getting that hook connected onto him. Does manage to get out alive, but it's 2 kills down for EGP, and Maryville lose absolutely nothing, instead catapulting themselves to a 9,000 gold lead, and now a soul.
And the soul, the inhibitors, that again, another example of just what could have been for EGP had this game not been so one-sided through the early stages. A 4-man cataclysm into Dominus, Cool the Meek across 5 people as well. Unfortunately, Sketch used his Inferno ulti earlier. Had that gone down, I think they may have even been able to turn the fight around right there. But they just weren't quite able to do so. And yeah, this is the attempted efforts on this bot side. Shady, this is off the back of a good flash play to take down the mid laner, but Perry walks through. This is all on vision, so Maryville know exactly what's going on right here, and that's the Infernum that sets it up. Sort of says, hey, we could potentially do this. 4-man Cataclysm, yep, that's great, gets melted. When Ekton jumps in, he's able to, pump out some good damage, but not quite enough to kill them. And like we say, wallet slappers right here, sort of the MO for Maryville, because that fight was not pretty for them, but they got away because they didn't, or because there was no damage for EGP.
It was a really sick Cataclysm, honestly. Like I don't even.
It was all really good. They just didn't have it.
Like it was sick. It was awesome. It was actually the perfect Cataclysm for EGP, just not at the perfect time. And really, honestly, I don't think there is a perfect time at this point, and unless of course you're thinking about next game, because right now. EGP are going to have to wait a long time before they're even close to relevant. Maryville are going to have to make a lot of mistakes along the way. However, with Faisal on a flank, he may just find some sort of answer. Odd Orange is going to get stunned. There's a lot of damage pumped into him, but the Zanyas to buy time ends up almost saving his life. A Sketch does collect the kill. Shady and Niles are now in the front line. Get Back doesn't connect on the Sleepy Trouble bubble either. So everybody's going to get out alive, and EGP do end up trading 1-for-1 in a, oh my lord, a surprising turn of events. That was almost 1-for-2, honestly, and oh lord, it still could be.
Yeah, but the power of Super Minions right here, dear, you are seeing it hand in hand, because EGP, they have to answer the waves that are crashing into their Nexus turrets, and the 1-for-1 may not be enough, dear.
There is absolutely no answer here. Azog has gone down, however, and Sketch may have clutched it out for the time being. Shady gonna get deleted as well, and with the Nexus on, I'm gonna call it 700 HP, Maryville are going to back away. We've still got Super Minions pushing into the base. You are not out of the woods as EGP, but they've managed to hang on for the time being, and Maryville did get a little bit too excited, at least for one moment.
Dear, we're going to do one of our patented Q&As right here. I'm going to give you a question. You have to give me a fairly basic answer, okay? How many... Okay, well, we'll hold on a second because we've got to replay. First of all, again, getting the bubble on to Get Back, as you can see, unfortunately not enough, but keep your eyes on Sketch here, and this will sort of segue into what I want to touch on here, because Gale Force forward, Q auto, and he doesn't even get the auto off. The stasis is beautiful. Essentially takes down his opponent counterpart inside a swift second. Not really a chance for Azog to answer, and the base defense is on for them. But again, back to my questions now. How many kills have EGP got?
How many kills? What do you mean?
Just how many kills have they got this game?
Is it the top of the
It's
screen?
easy.
They got 6
Yeah,
kills.
it's 6.
Yeah.
How many kills has Sketch got?
Ooh, that's tough.
Guess.
I mean,
maybe...
I'm gonna say 7. All right, I was close.
Sketch.
I was close. Oh, Sketch.
How did
Sketch.
you guess?
Oh, no. I was turning things around. I was like, oh, how many times has Azog killed him? Okay, no. Sketch.
My
Sketch.
point.
Okay, continue.
My point, dear, is that EGP are living and dying by their AD carry right now, and Sketch, he got funneled those resources in the early game. He got given the investment early on, and EGP need that return to cash out immediately. He's got 4 items now. He's got himself that Runan's Hurricane as well, to help with not only the wave clear of these Super Minions, which is actually a very present threat, but also the big team fights. Because right now, we've got Baron, we're going to have triple inhibs in not too long a time at all, and that is all but a done game, unless Sketch can go absolutely huge here in a team fight. And in a team fight, the EGP need to engage, and one that Maryville shouldn't give them the opportunity to.
I saw the teleport come through right there, and I was like, oh, you mean like right now? Like right now? Well, Perry with a 4-man Cataclysm again does set him up perfectly. Sketch, though, hasn't gotten the autos in just yet. Instead, getting hooked by Shady. He's still alive, though. Still unhinged. This guy jumping forward gets that snipe as well, and the investment does pay off. Sketch is keeping EGP in this game against all odds.
And again, Perry, you know, he's 087, but any death from here where he sets up engages like that is more than worth it. Orange, please don't let me. Yeah, thank you. People step up for this in here.
Faisal is gone, no. Well, holy moly, Niles just taking no prisoners.
That could be the game, because that's a staggered death timer. MU are going to get back to TP in. Azog Shady, they can run through the base, and in a time where Faisal is going to be dead for an extra 20 seconds, this inhib... go on. Let's see what Sketch can do, because he's got a mountain ahead of him still to climb.
If Sketch defends this inhib, I am PayPaling him something wild. I don't know yet.
Nothing, because he's defended it. Nothing.
Oh my god, you're right. I didn't finish my sentence, so I don't have to do it. However, see if Perry can pull off the miraculous engage once again. He has been the lifeblood of this team. We're giving a lot of credit to Sketch, and it's deserved because he's doing a lot of damage, but Perry is setting this team up beautifully with all of these engages on the Jarvan. Maryville definitely not letting up on the pressure, though. Again, it's going to have to come down to not 1, not 2, maybe even 3 or 4 more team fights before EGP can finally really, truly breathe.
Yep, these Super Minions should be able to take down an inhib. The Baron up for another 25 seconds. So that's the time window that Maryville have got, but trying to set up this poke. It's not going too well for them. It's not as easy where the space that AGP have got to work with is so large, right? They're working around in their bases, no particular choke points for Maryville to be firing their skill shots through. Fortunate thing for them is that they've actually got a Elder Drake which is spawning in a couple of seconds time. It was the Baron that had a little bit longer.
Oh god.
When they get the Elder, they can. I've talked about smacking them with their wallets. They can do literally anything, and they should win a team fight. That's the notion of a Baron. Did they pop Dominus already?
They did.
Oh.
Faisal not
And
having
Perry's
that
half
cooldown.
HP.
This is really big, and oh my lord, that Sleepy Trouble Bubble almost caught Sketch as well. The trap's gonna go down, but everybody is ready for this this dragon,
Oh,
it
it's
seems,
over.
but Perry is not gonna get to participate as Faisal goes in 1v4. He's gonna go down as well, and it's the opt in for the bases. Get Back is sprinting it down that pulls all of EGP apart, with Daption trying desperately to get away from Shady. He's not gonna make it. Get Back collects that kill. Sketch Dreams now trying to stay alive himself. Doesn't have the damage to survive the 1v4, and as the rocket whizzes by him, Maryville have finally clinched themselves this game. They're gonna collect the kill onto Leo. They're gonna take the Nexus that they tried to take ages ago, and most importantly, Rude Dude, they're gonna send us to game 3.
You know, Maryville, it took a little bit longer than it maybe should have done, but they do take us to game number 3 here. EGP, you know, they had me in the first half of that base defense, but it was such a long road to come back from that it was harder for Maryville to lose than it was for anything really, for any form of outcome other than a Maryville win in that game after a really strong early game, just absolutely dominant through the jungle support pairing. I really want to highlight that because Shady, we know, can be that really big roamer for the team, and we sort of highlighted the Nidalee in the draft and we thought, they have to go aggressive with this, and Orange delivered.
Really did, and I can only hope that we get to see something like this coming up next game, because for two teams that were neck and neck, that both love that late game team fighting, seeing these two styles really come together was amazing, and it makes me so excited for what we're going to get in that third game. Before that, of course, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Unified Proving Ground circuit. As we're here, we got to it. Game number 3, and wow, Maryville had a good statement to make there.
Yeah, I was only
Yeah,
a
I think,
little bit concerned about the late game that time.
Yeah, I think honestly, I was not expecting them to draft the type of comp they drafted because it's a pretty high execution comp, I'd say. You know, poke comps in general. But I think they completely blew them out of the water. It was like all 6 turrets just gone at 18 minutes. All the first tier 2s. Going off the draft for EG, like they picked up Jarvan Thresh, the 1-2. They picked up what Maryville played the last game. It was kind of just the whole game for EG was just kind of tragic, honestly.
Yeah.
I think they kind of had the right idea. Like they were fighting early level 1, but I really feel like there was a like miscommunication or just some sort of planning just went off because in the opening replay what we're about to show is Jarvan and the Thresh lane and the Nautilus lane, they both blew their flashes level 1, and both junglers were also pathing bottom level 1, and they eventually both burned their flashes and they take an early recall, and now it's Aphelios Thresh's turn to stack up the wave. But Thresh has no flash here. It's just Odd Orange, he stays, he's like, oh, I finished my full clear, I'm gonna pick up another camp here as well. This Thresh has no flash. It's just a free hook into a kill.
Yeah.
And that kind of just like snowballs things, you know, as MU, they picked a very high execution comp, and getting this gold in the early game is just like very important for them.
And I mean, you saw how the early gold continued to snowball here, as we do have ourselves yet another replay. And Smats, we got to see right off the first blood. This happened a minute after the first blood, and it's just Odd Orange on a rampage, it feels like.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you guys are following Cubby on Twitter, but he posted a pretty banger meme that is very relevant right now, which is that Scuttle Crab is out, Gromp is in. We fight for Gromp now, for junglers, and as we're about to witness, Perry
Perry's just trying to counter what Nidalee just did bottom, you know? Like,
Yeah.
oh, he just killed my Thresh, I'm gonna take this Gromp.
Oh.
Yoink! And he gives the thumbs up, he's tilted, and it just gets worse.
Yeah, it gets
Oh.
And
It's a bad time.
It just gets worse.
And it's not over, as you said. It just keeps getting worse.
Yeah. He gets on with the EQ, then gets flashed on. Odd Orange just like completely taking over the entire game from here. And then if you watch Odd Orange and Niles play as a duo after that, you'll know what's about to happen in the top lane as well. Just so much destruction from this player, Odd Orange. Really on one on this Nidalee. Very, very impressive performance from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it's disgusting. It's disgusting, right? You know what's happening. You always see Shady moving on the map. But then we go back down to the mid lane here, and it gets a bit feisty because it's just not that. Get back is telling Leo that you need to get back, and he took complete control of this mid lane.
Right. The Zoe was insane this game. You could really feel that Get Back is a lot more comfortable on this champion than the Akali, and that's not me like really making a dig at his Akali. I think the team fights could have been a little bit better, but there's really like nowhere you can go up from this. Like, look at this. He's actually flashing underneath the turret, landing all of his skill shots, gets him with the ignite. Just a beautiful solo kill, and it really sets up Get Back to be this really daunting presence in the rest of this game, where if you get hit by a bubble, you're just dead.
Yeah, it was just bubble and just artillery strike, just pinpoint the location, and that person's dead. So honestly, the Zoe performance was really good, and it was really what they needed, especially in a comp with very little CC. I mean, they had Nautilus, but uncleansable CC. I guess only the bubble. So it's like the carries didn't want to take cleanse. So when they did get hit by it, it was just certain death.
Yeah, it was just all she wrote, and then this spilled over, right? We have gone all the way through our replays. We started in the bot lane, we went top side, we went to the mid lane. Let's return back to the bot lane, as then it was just a Maryville tactic. All right, Shady, you've gone to every single lane, back to bot lane. Let's get this game going. And Osama, I would love to hear you walk us through this, as it was just an overload here.
Yeah, so I mean, EG, they just dove Jinx, I believe, earlier, and they kind of denied her a lot, and you know, they're at one plate, so you know they're finally gonna clap back here. And Aphelios is like the only saving grace of this whole comp at this point, and he just gets hooked. His Gale Force gets like stuck between the turret. Good Nautilus hook, bubble hits, and then I mean that's all she wrote. You know, the Herald comes down. They get like 2 crashes off, and it was so sad because I was like, dang. EG is like probably out of this game, or like they really need hope, or it was like a good dive, and then they just stacked 3 waves and they killed the only saving grace of that team. I mean, actually, Sketch was still popping off after. The game was,
oh my god,
should have been really clean. Like it should have just been a complete stomp, but obviously it's, you know, it's amateur. Sometimes you get a little back and forth. I mean, in every region, so. It's never as clean as you want it to be. Sketch was putting in some really big damage as Aphelios. Sadly, he's just outranged. You know, just one bubble is all that was needed, and I mean, still a good performance. You know, like hopefully he can bring that into Game 3. Pretty good comeback victory though from Maryville. I think it was like exactly like what you needed, and it was just such a clean execution of a pretty hard comp to pull up.
And we have a treat right here for your eyes, ladies and gentlemen, as talking about our
A
replays
lesson.
and whatnot. We pulled it. It's a lesson learned here. Friendship
Scuttle
ended
Crab
with
is
Scuttle
out.
Crab.
Gromp
my
is the new
friend.
crab. Look at him in all of his glory,
Hey, I'd rather have 2 Gromps than 2 Crabs.
for sure.
Kidding me?
Oh, we're making it bigger.
Enlarge, enhance. That's what I'm talking about. All of its glory right in front of your
Zoom
eyes.
and enhance on the Gromp.
I can see the pixels. Talking about it though, we're going into a game number 3 here, gents. We are going into a big game between these two, and 2 different style games, right? Both games had a completely different ending to them. How are y'all feeling? We're going into game 3, and there's a bit of spice inside the series.
Well, I would say that I'm feeling really good about Maryville moving forward with all that momentum built up by Odd Orange playing super, super well, like completely on a tear in that early game. He's not playing third game though, so we have a completely. We have like the subs coming in. So Odd Orange, who just had a crazy pop-off game, being subbed out for Kind Jungle. Also Evan RL in for the bot lane position. And, you know, I definitely respect that Maryville are using all of their players. I just think that this is like the most confusing time to do this, because they just popped off. Both players just popped off, especially like Azog in the late game. Like his early game was definitely tough. He was having a rough go of things, getting punished super hard. But they weren't playing to bot lane; they were playing to top lane, so that makes sense as AD carry. The jungle one just doesn't make any sense. So I'm really wondering what Kind Jungle and Evan RL are going to do in this game.
Yeah, personally, from my experience, I feel like you want to ride the momentum. If anything, you'd expect this change after the game 1 loss. I'm not really too sure. I mean, we'll just have to see. Maybe they got some like secret picks they want to pull out, or maybe it's just to give their players more stage time or something. So, not too sure on that, but we'll see how they do.
Evan is a player we've seen time and time again, has been ever so oppressive, and Kind Jungle known to be very aggressive. So I am very curious on exactly what the game plan could possibly be for them. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to find out what that game plan is. Our casters, Dia and Rudude, are going to go ahead and get us ready for game number 3. Gents, take it away.
Welcome back, folks, and Travesty, you pose an excellent question. What on earth is this game going to look like. With Maryville having such a massive pop-off performance last game, and EGP now on the verge of being eliminated from the Unified Proving Grounds themselves. Rudude, I gotta know what your thoughts are. If we're taking out two members of Maryville that both performed exceptionally last game and putting in two others, what are we getting out of it?
You know, I understand Smack's sentiment. I'm going to take a different view, though. And I think that coming into this one, that with now Kind Jungle in, he's got two fresh tapes on his opponent, on Perry, to see what he's been doing, knowing exactly what he's going to be doing, where Maryville on the other side of things, or Maryville themselves with all that knowledge, that's something that EGP just aren't going to have, right? Yes, they'll have previous tapes on what Kind Jungle has been looking to do. But I also think that the way that Maryville won their game was through a very aggressive style of play that they weren't going to, I don't think, in this third game, right? That's something that you would just ban away. Like the Nidalee ban seems like something that would have come through, and yes, you would have drawn a ban that opens up some slight draft advantages. But I think swapping to Kind and trying to take a different style of approach here is something that I'll be happy about for Maryville. Between the two junglers, kind of more reserved style jungle, and I think that fits well into Perry as a matchup. Because in game one, we saw the sort of power that Perry could have on the Zinza, where he kind of ran away with things a little bit. And I think that if Kind can keep that enemy in check, keep Perry in check in terms of where he's going to be, and keeping the CS fairly similar, those items not quite as contrasting, I definitely think that for Maryville, this is a good time to substitute out. And Evan as well, even if he's not warmed up, this guy is absolutely cracked, right? And I think that as an ADC, it's more than appropriate to take Azog's place, just as a quick hat to Evan.
Yeah, Evan is absolutely insane, and well, let's see how well he gets prioritized right now. Because having seen an Aphelios locking for Sketch again, we are just getting a solo and isolated bot lane. They say, "Oh, Aphelios, that seems really fun. That seems really entertaining to play against. Let's not interact with it at all." And Ziggs is the perfect champion in order to do that. However, interaction seems to be rife in the jungle, where we're picking up our very first Lee Sin of the series.
Yeah, so we got banned away in game number 1, and then we saw the Jov and the Nidalee get traded in game number 2. Nice to see that Lee Sin here, fairly high priority, given that it has slipped through the ban. So we'll have to see if Perry has got something up his sleeve, or whether it is just going to be that Jov as an answer here to the Lee Sin. But obviously the bot lane, typically you'll see rounded out here in the second, or in this next set of picks. Graves coming through for EGP now. Perry has played a lot of Graves in his time, but I imagine that this is also, or we know as well, that this is also a flex pick that could potentially go to Firesalt up in that top side of the map. So keeping their cards close to their chest for the time being. EGP with first pick on supports. Typically we've seen Thresh taken, something like the Nautilus as well in this position, so we'll have to see what they opt for.
I'd really like to see a Nautilus, especially if they want to unlock the option to roam once again. Thresh definitely a little bit more sticking around for safety, and Nautilus, naturally, actually going to get locked in, providing a lot against the Lee Sin as well in terms of lockdown against a relatively mobile skirmishing jungler. Now being able to back up your own jungler, hopefully EGP aren't losing out 100% of the time.
Oh, okay, so they just go for the Jace straight up before it gets banned away. I was thinking that this should be just a Leona if they're trying to match here, but they take the Jace before it gets banned away in the second set of picks. Again, a very happy pick from my end anyway, to at least see that one be taken away and taken into Niles' hands once again, as he performed very well in it last game. Wasn't the shining star of the composition, but did admirably and did his job, fulfilled it very nicely. I expect EGP now to just pile bans into that bot lane, get rid of Rakan, Leona, two roaming supports that are going to be facilitated by the Ziggs to roam around across Summoner's Rift and set up the team for success, because if you're able to take some of those away, then you then push down into lower tier supports. We're looking at things like Braum, for example, Maryville to pick up, so we'll have to wait and see. Maryville on the other side, they're just taking away picks that can't easily get dove in the top lane and give Niles a bit of an easier laning phase.
You know what, that's really what things seem to have been about for Maryville. They're trying to pick Niles the best matchup possible in most scenarios, and now with a little bit of a mystery, just keeping him safe. They take away that Camille as well, the Rakan, of course, the next expected ban, and Rudude, you called it perfectly. God, I gotta appreciate you for that. But with Maryville having their fourth pick available, they're gonna go for the pike. Braum, who? We are going full aggression right now, and I love it.
Beautiful. Okay, and that just, it adds to all the bans that EGP put down. They were like, okay, these are really good roaming supports. Guess who else is really good? It's Pike. But, okay, this would be a good answer for the jungle. We'll wait for it to get locked in. But for a Pyke matchup, this is just, again, you're facilitating roams. You can put those Moby Boots on, get going very early. We got more spice here, dear. These guys are not messing about. The Kayn locked in the jungle, and the answer to, or what is not even an answer, it's going to be a blind pick in the mid lane for EGP. Let's see what they go for.
Just go with Vex. Just do it. Vex is so good right now, but you know, Syndra ultimately also. I could see it. I'd like to see a Vex. I also
Dia's
like
internal monologue just spilling out.
I also liked the decision between the two E-boys, the Kayn and the Viego. They ended up, of course, getting the one that is a little bit harder to make work nowadays, but against the squishy composition of Maryville, I don't mind the Kayn nearly as much. Maryville had the opportunity to pick themselves up a hyper-scaling mid laner in the Victor, and I also would pass that up, but I am left a little bit lost here with the identity of the EGP and Maryville drafts, because there's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of pop-off potential, but what are they actually meant to do?
Yeah, you know, those are some great questions, right? You are lacking the... It's just not as clear-cut as last game, right? For Maryville, last game it was, okay, they're poking. At this game, they've got a really good split push setup with Shady. They've got a lot of wave clear as well that they can just keep get back, or Evan in either side lane, make sure that waves aren't getting pushed across on the other side, and you know their potential to go into a side lane and help out Niles dive onto Faisal here with the Lee Sin and the Pyke is actually going to be a really lethal duo again to power farm through EGP just in general. And also a little nuance here in the sort of itemizations that we may expect to see is that for Faisal, typically on a Graves, you expect to see the Immortal Shield Bow come through as that sort of Bruiser-esque style, but versus a Pyke, actually, it's actually really bad to go for Shield Bow because that threshold for when Shield Bow gets activated is the exact timing and the exact window where Shady actually gets his ulti ready and available, so it does borderline nothing for you if the shield gets popped and then you just get Pyke ulted. It's like, great shield that guy, thanks for that one. So potentially see an Eclipse or something like that come through, it's a little bit more well-rounded, at least versus the Pyke. Obviously there's very real possibility he just goes anyway and we'll see that interaction itself.
That would be really fun to see effective HP just melt in front of our eyes, and Spot is something that this game is not going to be lacking. For as much as I was confused about this, I see the dream for Maryville being able to get that strong side top and really make use of the Pyke, and I see the pop-off potential for EGP as well. Neither of these compositions are lacking burst, however, and so something that I think is fair to expect is that the team fights probably won't last all that long.
No, I'm expecting explosive team fights regardless, because we've got double reset, or not even double resets, we've got resets on both sides, right? Pyke ulti and Vex ulti, both reset on kill, and Vex is a little bit more forgiving than Pyke's, so, you know, a little handshake there that EGP is going to be more than happy with. But if you're able to get those team fights going and you're able to start off with just one kill for Evil Genius in particular, they're going to be able to snowball roll through you, because your composition itself, outside of your Pyke and Lee Sin, your main carries then, you know, the Ori, there's Jace, the Ziggs, not the most mobile of champions, and typically Satchel Charge, yes, it can be saved for that defensive usage, but you might want to use it to try and pick people off, much like we saw happen for Sketch in game number 1. So there's get into the team fights that are going to be fairly entertaining to keep our eyes on. For Maryville and EGP, though, as their sort of compositions as a whole, they kind of want to do, or they don't kind of want to do the opposite things, but they look very, in the early stages, as though Maryville are going to do one thing and EGP are going to be trying to stop that happening, and I think this is going to be very entertaining because they are obviously, as you say, topside focus. Niles is going to be looking to punish Faisal, and they can use Kind, they can use Shady to do that. Graves typically a very stable, sufficient lane on his own to just be able to survive, sustain, and keep himself alive. So it's going to be entertaining to find and see if he's able to, you know, keep pushing that wave in and deny potential dives, just keep his wave in a good spot as well. Because this matchup for Faisal, I think, is going to be a real test for him.
Yeah, and it has been for 3 games in a row at this point.
Yeah.
Faisal has really been tested this series and has not come up lacking yet. It has never been me looking up at the top side and going, that is what changed this game negatively for EGP. He has been a rock for them, and it has absolutely been what they needed for right now. Everything else has to come together as well, though, and one of the things that I'm really looking at, especially when we think about these supports, is, yeah, I'm excited about Shady. I want to see this Pyke pop off, but at the same time, Nautilus is also going to be terrifying this game.
Yeah, they're level 1ing. Perry, okay, this is huge. He queues over the wall, he gets vision.
Okay, Kind Jungle saw him. Okay, but the flash, never mind, you just can't move. Kind Jungle, God, he's gone. It's better that he forgets about it, honestly, because that is not feeling good.
Okay, so first blood to the mid lane here, Leo, who had himself the choice here of his blind pick mid laners, goes for the Vex. A little bit of a chance now at redemption, honestly, as he got kind of bodied in the second matchup in the Zoe Victor lane. So if he's got this first blood, a little bit more help in that facet to keep himself up and alive. The ball in the brush right there is actually helping out MU quite significantly, honestly. It's just letting them know, hey, there's still a Nautilus here, and they haven't left your jungle.
Yeah, really keeping his eyes out for Kind as EGPR as well. They know exactly what is going on. Kind jungle is completely spotted, and EGP should be able to stifle him even further. Coming around on the Raptors right now. Faisal is going to keep him from starting this off, and Perry is the one that is coming out on top, completely denying top side away from Kind jungle, putting him in a position where he's not only down a death, but also down a top side, an entire section of his jungle. Perry now with the opportunity to go ahead and make that even more if he crosses directly through the mid lane, and Leo's helping him do that on this Vex while continuing in the bot side. Daption just lands hook after hook.
Yeah, and this is going to be really important for EG because they want to force this bot side in a powerful spot. They know that they're going to have prior up on that top lane, but the important part now, making sure that Kind can't just respond by taking the hook after hook.
This is just ridiculous, but this time finally does get answered back. Sketch does flash away ultimately, so now summonerless on this AD carry with Kind jungle bot side and not able to access his top side entirely. There's really only one place to go, and EGP do have to be careful.
Yeah, I expect he just... I don't even know what his play is here. If he goes into the bot lane, he's just going to get collapsed on. So it's kind of doom and gloom, but you're quite right that gank in the bot lane is looking ever so tasty, but you can see that there's a ward down. It's going to spot him out. He's going to need some creative pathing to get through here, and he's just going to walk it down straight away. No flash.
See if he can get these kills. Daption pretty terribly mispositioned right now after being pulled back by Shady, and kill it will be over to the members of Maryville. However, Kind jungle not actually participating in it doesn't actually solve his own problem.
Now, yes, Daption is a little too far forward, but he actually saves AD carry there. That's such a crucial hook at that point. It's not even that he's just the one that they settle for. Shady wanted to go for Sketch, but there's a hook that comes in at the right time to stop the flash follow. Shady's got that under the E that he's going to go for, and then he flashes behind to finish the hook or finish the connect onto Sketch. But with that hook coming through, stops it dead in its tracks and means that actually can't come to blows. So he sacrifices himself for his ADC, and that every day of the week is worthwhile. Ultimately, should they have got ganked there was only really one play for Kind, as you mentioned, and it really didn't, may not have, or should not have happened, but still, good to see that Daption's at least prioritizing the correct player in the bot lane.
Yeah, and Maryville do at least get something off of that as well. They're not too far off, but now moving up to the top side, it's time for them to do what they do best and really start harassing Faisal. Shady's not spotted on vision just yet, and with Niles flashing forward to trade on to Faisal, I suspect he's trying to bait a fight here, but it just isn't working, and Shady is going to have to come up and help him push out this wave, likely not getting the dive that they wanted.
No, and right, remember when we said, okay, Maryville, they're going to try and play toward this top lane. They got themselves a freebie down in the bot lane that they maybe shouldn't have, but overall, they are still looking to punish this top lane. And Faisal, yes, he's down a little bit of farm, but he's done a very good job so far at just keeping himself level pegging with Niles in terms of that CS, and will hopefully look to continue to do the same. I think he's even set himself up for a nice wave position as well that he's just basing to teleport right back to and keep himself set up for that instance. Shady, of course, as we've come to expect, off of the first recall, will always roam. It's just a part of his routine at this point. It's not even recall go bot lane, it's recall avoid bot lane.
I mean, it's why you draft this guy, right? And it's exactly what you get from having him on your team.
Perry's
However,
level 5.
Perry, ever aggressive, is going to try and make his own name present in this top side. Now it's pushing up. Kind jungle going to meet us as we go off into the ether. So is the gang, because both junglers spotted each other and decided, you know what, better not.
No, and we're going to have to, obviously, keep our eyes then on how much Perry can do. Because currently, right, he started off at level 5. He's got himself for 3 sides of a jungle, so is incredibly well set up for this game. And honestly, if he can just get himself to level 6, and he needs to start farming those orbs. because as soon as he gets to level, or not even level 6, as soon as he gets to the point where he's got a form, he's already far enough ahead in terms of farm, in terms of the camps that he's got. He's going to be a menace. Kayn, unfortunately, kind of half a champion without a form. So yes, when you're farming up, you're getting all those camps and you've got all those items, but you're still walking in basic Kayn. You want either the Shadow Assassin or what I'd much rather expect it to be the Rust, because even with this tier, there was sort of a development, I suppose, in Season 11 where everybody goes, well, yes, this Blue Kayn build is good. Blue Kayn itself kind of hit or miss. If I go Red Kayn with the Blue Kayn build, maybe we're onto something here.
Boom.
Yeah.
Just absolute explosion, not just of your mind, but of the enemy carries, and that's the really most important thing. Well, of course, we're looking for that. I was sort of thinking of him as a sort of Vayne, like where, you know, a Vayne gets a kill in the early game. We've all had it happen. You're playing top side, you look over at the bottom side, and you're like, oh, well, the enemy Vayne has just gotten a kill, and you know that it's going to be a problem. It isn't technically a problem yet, but really, once we hit that breakpoint later on, once that Bork, or in Kayn's case, first item Gore Drinker likely comes through, we could see some similar levels of brokenness around the rift.
Yeah.
The guy who literally just walks through walls. And that's the really scary thing. Of course, big question for me is how this Lee Sin is going to be able to combat that, because Lee Sin level 6, well, not as flashy in the sense that he doesn't have to deal all the damage, especially from behind, can still very much disrupt plays.
Exactly, and it's going to be a big challenge for Kind. Obviously got set back very far behind in this game. Has had very little support from the team so far, just because they were trying to, you know, sustain their own lanes, right? They don't want to be sacrificing their own instances just so that Lee Sin can get one camp. Unfortunately, it's just the way that it's been going. So a lot of eyes on Kind jungle for me this game as well, because we're still in the early stages of it, and I want to see how he tries to get back into this one, because we saw just last game how useless a jungler can look if they get put far behind. And, you know, credit to Perry last game, because he made the job and work still, even though he'd been set back an incredible amount of times, incredible amount of deaths in the early stages. Lee Sin is a champion that's not so easy on. If you can find those miracle hooks, then great, but you're trying to find miracle hooks versus a very good composition of stopping that from you, right? You've got Graves that's got the scatter. Vex personal space means that jumping forward is incredibly dangerous, and then you've got Nautilus as well, is a very good answer to Lee Sin just in general.
And if that weren't enough of a problem, there's the fact that this isn't auto orange that you're going up against on the side of Perry that you played against time and time again. This is adaptation pure and simple from the side of Perry, who hasn't had the advantage that Kind Jungle has in terms of the scouting. It makes it all the more impressive that Maryville are being put far behind in this early game because of the adaptations that they've had to make. And even in the bot lane, Evan RL and Shady really holding down the fort right now, as expected, of course, on the Ziggs and Pyke respectively. Should be able to, I'm going to say, hopefully make some flashy plays happen in our near future.
That's the hope here, and Shady looking into the mid lane to try and get one of those started.
Nice, okay, good hook, and an even better shockwave. That could not have come at a better time, Rue, dude. Literally, as we say it, Shady gets to pop off.
It's pain, dear, because one of the knee-jerk reactions is to flash an Orianna ulti, and I understand, I get the reflex, but you're actually on the right side of the ulti here, and it sounds weird to say, but the ulti sort of displaces you to the other side of where the ball was. So Leo actually could have sort of tanked the ult and then flashed afterwards, and he may have had a better chance at survival. The way it went, he got dragged right on back, didn't quite get to the edge of Shockwave, and ends up going down because of it. So a really good gank in the mid lane. Shady, as you say, looking to get the ball rolling, and Kind Jungle now only 3 camps behind in his Lee Sin efforts, has still got that top side to go as well. So honestly, not back in this game entirely, but he's in a very good spot to do so.
Yeah, we're getting there. And honestly, if he can keep piggybacking off of other plays, it's just going to get easier and easier as we wait for that parry timing to come through, that transform to really rear its head. That's where things
I have a fact as well.
Change a lot. Yeah, what's up?
About Perry specifically now.
I love facts.
On the Proving Grounds pod, product placement here, that you can check out when it was Smacks and Cubby interviewing Perry. He said it was a Kayn one trick. He went by the name Ghostly Cat, and this is actually the first champion he hit Challenger with. So to say that Perry is comfortable on Kayn is a bit of an understatement.
pretty good for him, honestly. It's clearly shown here, and nice little backup there. Thank you for the info. The fact drop, Rudu, definitely does give me a lot more insight as to how on earth this guy's popping off so well in the early game. Again, though, while we do wait for that transform, there is still strength for Maryville. They've got Shady all the way up towards the top side. It couldn't be at a better time. 8 minutes, 30 seconds means that Rift Herald has just recently come up, and I'm sure Maryville want it.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, we don't actually see either of the teams go for this Dragon prior to the Rift Herald timing, so putting a little bit more stock into those plates that you're going to be getting. The Dragon, for the moment, sort of left by the wayside, and we're probably waiting for one of the teams to make a move to generate some tempo where they can take Herald freely for themselves, and then the enemy team have to respond with, well, I guess Dragon is the next best thing. And that's sort of how we tend to see these plays go, where you sacrifice one side of the map and you go, okay, well, what can we get on this side? And 9 times out of 10, the Drake for Herald trade ends up going, at least in the early stages, to the team who prioritize that Herald because of all the gold that it gives. And, you know, maybe we see later on the return on Drake investment when you get towards that soul. That's not going to be the case just yet. It is currently Kind Jungle who started up that Rift Herald, it looks like, on that top side. I think he's on a Scuttle Crab, so we'll have to be careful with how he's monitoring that vision. But for the time being, it should just be that top side that the MU have started to focus on. And as we sort of knew going into it with the draft, this is where they were going to be prioritizing.
Waited things out for long enough, or at least you thought. The rest of EGP is coming up, but as Faisal gets engaged on, he's chunked to half health and is doing a lot right back. Does get kicked in the face, and Kind Jungle does get the kill, but it isn't going to go in for it. Whew, my lord. I gotta say, I would have taken it, but this is the real Lee syndrome. Leo pops up, grabs it too, and should be able to take down Kind Jungle.
There we go.
A double kill picked up for EGP, and that was a flashy answer to what looked like a Rift Herald start and finish from Maryville that didn't quite go through.
Yes, Leo could be breaking the game open there with that pick. EGP rotate all 5 members up to the top side. Leo's able to capitalize on the play. Kind and Niles not quite able to find the pick 2v1 versus Faisal. Once again, displaying incredible weak side prowess there. Evan may well be able to take this turret, but Faisal's here. He's going to be able to break that wave before the next set comes through, and it's going to be a close thing. Maybe just a couple more autos would have done it, but for the time being, that bot turret stands while the Rift Herald gets secured by EG Prodigies, and they're going to be hoping to break open this turret very soon, because otherwise that's going to fall to the Ziggs.
Literally just wave clear bots in the bot lane as well, with the Graves Ziggs lane mashup. I cannot imagine a less interactive lane. It does not get any worse than that for these guys, but hey, they end up picking up plenty of farm, and in the meantime, like you had alluded to, EGP got that first tower and had the gold go into all the right places. Leo getting even further ahead, now has Mythic completed as well as the Sork shoes. This guy can and will blow you up, and it's exactly what you want from a Vex.
Yeah, and what sort of frontline do Maryville have to deal with that? The answer, unfortunately, it's just none. Normally you look to your support, your hook champion, to be that pseudo frontline here. Unfortunately, Shady can't build health, right? Yes, you can build it, but it gets converted into AD. This guy has a flat baseline of HP that he cannot exceed. So that is just not a facet that EGP are going to have to deal with, and it's something that Maryville are going to be more than happy to try and work through. They've now transitioned their strong side, or alleged strong side at this point, down into the bot lane. For EGP, their strong side is in the mid lane. Leo, obviously, with 3 of their 3 kills, is currently the powerhouse for the squad. And honestly, put him in the best position. We've got Drake already live, and you can see Maryville, they're the ones that, as we've started to see be a bit of a constant, have current priority and have set themselves up in the river in lieu here of this Drake being a priority to take.
Constant shove from Evan has made it impossible for EGP to really get enough priority to be comfortable on the bot side, and this just makes the problem even worse. However, as Maryville do rotate into the mid lane, passing up Dragon once again, the timer just gets further and further, and it does not seem like we are going to be getting another sort of Elder Dragon game. This is going to be about fights, pure and simple, and right now, they're ones being set up by Maryville as 4 people walk their way, 5 people walk their way up into the top side. Maryville are getting this top side tier 1.
Yep, and what are they losing on the other side then? They're losing the Dragon and they're giving plates over to Sketch. We saw him on the Aphelios in game number 2. He looked like the shining star of this EGP squad, even though they did lose that game. Faisal has been able to stay safe. Oh no,
God.
Cast a curse. Okay, he's fine. has been able to stay safe on this top side. Losing gracefully is something we always love to see as the top laner who's getting very little resources. And the question really is, is this going to be worthwhile for Maryville? They're splitting plates between their two solo laners, and Sketch is getting unfiltered gold in the bot lane. So we'll have to wait and see where these investments end up paying off later on. Because right now, it's just you're making your play, you're making your moves, you're setting up for the late game, and we have to see what comes home to roost a bit later on.
If you can make this Sketch against the world, you already know you've done this once, right? You've seen the Aphelios win con and been able to shut it down, and that seems to be what Maryville are trying to do right now, accruing as much gold for the team as possible and sort of letting Aphelios do his own thing. But it is a dangerous, dangerous game, as you've already illustrated. And right now, it is just getting even worse as Sketch has finally had the chance to catch up to Evan, who's been shoving waves into him over and over, crashes a wave over in bot side, and now is going to get the chance to reset on his own terms. Perry still waiting for his big impact into the game from that early game that he set up so well. We haven't really seen nearly as much as I think we could have from the Evil Genius Prodigies.
No, and he's gone for this Prowler's Claw, which is incredibly telling here of what style of play he's going to be opting into. It's not that Gore Drinker that we'd alluded to. There's a Mana Moon in the works at the very least here. So this is going to be Perry looking to snowball, looking to find kills. As we say, still needs to find those orbs. He's still currently base Kane, and is obviously going to be looking to change that about as swiftly as possible. And with the first strike as well, he's looking to farm champions for the gold. And with the CS, he's currently been doing the opposite and been farming gold off the camps.
I'm wondering, where did he go back and get that first assist? Because it could be that he's just waiting on form, and we're going to see it very late with the relatively low action, at least on his side of things. Perry is not set up in the best way to become a mid-game force, or at least for right now, and until that transform comes in, it really isn't going to change. Maryville have the opportunity to play as if the map is theirs for right now, because they've equalized just fine using Evan RL around the map, getting Kind Jungle back into things, and even as Perry jumps forward, it's really not that scary yet.
Yeah, and the assist coming from the level 1 play, so it's been fairly stagnant since then, all told. They went for that level 1 invade and found the kill there. And you can see what the looks of trying to wave clear. Oh, okay.
We're killing Evan RL, I guess, as we all jump on him. He goes down, and that looks simple enough. Finally, knockup does land onto Shady, and by the time it does, two of his teammates have already met their end, with Kind Jungle trying to get out. Looks like he's going to be able to, but Perry gets hooked over the wall and says, that's where Kind Jungle is. Looks for these kills, and doesn't look like he's going to be able to come out ahead with them. Nice assassination, though, started from Leo on Evan RL is really the thing that warped that fight. The guy is 5-1 on Vex for a very good reason.
Yeah, I mean, we can go back to the last game. How many kills have EGP got? How many kills has this time Leo got? It's a one-man show so far from these plays, and Leo currently doing a very good job finding the engages, using that ulti. This is that issue of not really having a frontline, is that it doesn't really matter who Leo hits with his ult, he can probably one-shot them, and the more gold he starts to pick up. Unfortunately, there's no Dark Seal to really accelerate that snowball, but he's got Shadow Flame in the works right now, so when he comes home and finds that one in his back pocket, he is going to be leaps and bounds ahead of literally anybody on Maryville. Absolutely
Terrifying. I think it's like the one guy that we really, really have to watch out for. Sketch! He'll scale up, he'll get insured, and Perry, he's going to be a relatively predictable frontliner, right?
Once farm
he's
champions,
on top of you, you'll die.
Once farm turrets. Yeah.
But Leo, he's that X factor. He's always going to be able to pop off in the team fights, and as we know, he's going to be reliably able to assassinate somebody. And the nice thing about Vex is that she can kind of be anywhere. Let's take a look at this again.
I mean, you get hit by the ulti, and it's unfortunately it's doomed, and that's about it. There was a massive Inferno ult right there as well that sort of set up Maryville to get absolutely blasted there in that instance, and the Shadow Surge actually was the lethal damage that ended up taking down Get Back. So there's a lot to be scared of here if you're Maryville, because your range comes exclusively from Jason Ziggs. Shady trying to step up to this team. That's going to be very, very scary, because he misstepped by just a second. Daption hits a hook and Shady dies.
No, this guy does not survive for even a second, and that's the really scary thing, because you can say that about any singular member of Maryville. Well, of course, we've got all these win cons stacking up. On the side of Maryville, it really does rely on a little bit more side lane power than they've got right now. Niles has been really quiet this game, honestly. Yes, he's farmed up and he's got a 30 CS lead over the opposition, but realistically, this side lane isn't being broken open. Evan RL is not going to be able to consistently hold down the mid lane because of exactly what we just saw, and instead, it's EGP that have the run of things.
Yeah, and I love that you bring up Niles here, because I don't remember who said it, but it always just made me chuckle. It's that no matter how irrelevant a Jace has been put behind or how little they've done in an early game, at a certain point, Jace does damage. And that's just a standalone statement. You know, regardless, those shock blasts are going to hurt. When Mirror Mana gets completed and he potentially hits Cyrilda's as his third item, that's sort of the peak where you don't tend to have your armor built up as a potential squishy member just yet. So we're waiting to see Niles group up with the team and find those pokes that we know that Jace is so renowned for. But right now it's EGP that are setting themselves up for the siege, and unfortunately, sieging against the Sigs we know is fairly difficult, so let's see how much they can get with this one.
Well, let's see if Get Back gets to see it. As it looks like he will not. Perry picks him up in the jungle, and now is when you really start to sweat. If you're walking through without vision, that's where Perry is at his deadliest. And with EGP having both mid lane towers, vision is something that they are not going to be running short on. We talk about the map control that mid towers give all the time. Think about how much just fell into the hands of EGP in that moment, and Perry's even gone for blue for him, so that gets scarier.
It really does. Doubling down then. Firesol, is he going to be okay? He's fine.
Oh my god, Kind Jungle doesn't quite get the Q. Instead, Daption has come around, and now we get the Uno reverse card. And oh my lord, Leo gets to do it again. This time, getting a personal space and flashing out as well just makes it seem cheap. Nobody on EGP loses their lives, and instead, it is a tower and 2 players that fall on the side of Maryville.
Matt, I know this game has been all about about Leo, but look at this replay, right? And you can see why. The knock-up hits, really good to see that the follow-through happens, and I was looking for stopwatch. I was like, okay, so he dies and gets traded, and then he personal space flashes. I was like, he's not even dead. But somebody I want to highlight here to draw your attention to, again, Firesol this game. He's not been flashy, he's not done anything particularly amazing in these team fights, but just then, again, was the perfect example of what his entire game has been like. He's been getting gooned 4 or 5 times this game, hasn't died at all, hasn't given over any excess gold, and this time round actually baits in Maryville to get some kills for his team. Has been playing an incredibly good safe side top, and I think that it just needs to be called out and shouted out for him.
And he's been doing it the entire series. Like, Faisal is the rock for this squad right now, and it's very clear why EGP have picked him up this season. Faisal and Sketch moving in. Might just be time for Inhibitor Tower to go down, but like you said, Ziggs is causing problems, and Evan RL, in his own way, has been Maryville's rock this time around, and if anything, is the thing that'll get them through to late game just because of his wave clear.
And you can see now that Perry has adopted the role of split push side laner. You know, he's taking the bot side jungle as and when it respawns, but those bot waves have been going all but exclusively into Perry's hands, and he's leaps and bounds ahead of Kind Jungle. I want to draw your attention to A, the CS discrepancy, and B, the level discrepancy between our 2 junglers right now. Kind currently 4 levels behind, as well as the over 100 CS. I wonder if we could toggle the goal just to see by quite how much. Oh my word.
Almost eating that hook. Actually could have killed him, but Daption is the one that's going in, and a massive ult as well. Just destroys Maryville University as Evan RL is the last one left alive. That is quickly corrected, and one of the swiftest aces I've ever seen comes through for EGP.
Perry just dominates Maryville in the mid lane. There's nothing more to say. He hops over a wall. Daption starts it off. Perry knocks it down like a couple of bowling pins. He just rolls through the entirety of Maryville. They're going to get the Baron as a prize. Leo's able to find a solo kill in the bot lane. EGP are in resounding lead right now. Baron, 7.5k, 10 kill lead. Everything is looking their way.
It really is everything. Absolutely terrifying. If that wasn't enough, they're 40 seconds away from putting themselves on soul point as well. And we're going to get a look at what happened in the bot side. Well, all that was going down because Leo decided to take matters into his own hands and find a kill onto Niles with that last auto coming through from the minion. And that's what ultimately made the ace so perfect, is that it was happening everywhere.
Yeah, I wonder if we could get a replay of just what happened with Perry, just to sort of showcase how far ahead this guy is. But there's probably going to be a lot of action. The Baron has gone down, and we don't want to miss out on how EGP look to close out this game. And, we tend to see, we're seeing double CS between the junglers. What we don't often see is nearly double the level. Outside of level 1 to 2, Shady is level 8, Perry is level 15.
It is wild. I am terrified. I wouldn't walk up to him. And honestly, I don't even know if staying in the base will save you. We're about to find out, though, it doesn't. Evan RL, he finds that out firsthand, and unfortunately, isn't going to be able to clear waves anymore, as well as he's done this entire game. This game is now Perry's.
Yeah, he's just going to walk around. Anybody steps up. Oh, I fancy killing you now. My Prowler's closed off cooldown. I think so. Mid inhibitor gonna fall, top inhibitor has no answer from Maryville, and just Perry zoning by literally being in the base is gonna give not one, not two, potentially now a third inhibitor turret is going to fall. We'll see if the inhib itself goes and falls straight after. They still don't have Evan yet, so this is a 4v5 down 12k gold. I don't think so.
No real way for Maryville to engage. Instead, it's EGP that are spoiled for choice. Jumping forward, Leo ends up setting up 2 quick kills for the squad and finishes off that third inhibitor in the meantime. Evil Geniuses had a rough game too. Maryville looked like they could have taken it, but game 3 has been the complete reverse. Maryville have been absolutely torn apart by Leo, by Perry, by Faisal, Sketch, Dapsh, and they have worked together to send EGP to the playoffs.
What a game. Holy, and that is just that's what you get for being a K1 trick that get yourself to Challenger and whipping it out in a game 3. That is beautiful. I love that from Perry, honestly, to say, okay, guys, it's time. We're 1-1. We win, we go through. We lose, we go home. Give me the cane. All right, it's beautiful, and I'm so happy that Perry did it, and not just that, but that it performed as well, right? Like, there was just several instances where you were just looking at this Kane and going, is he going to be able to get anything going in this game? He's still base Kane with, he's level 10 right now. He's farmed up a storm, but what's he going to be able to do with it? And then all of a sudden, he hits blue Kane, flicks a switch, and all of a sudden, he's just the beast of Summoner's Rift.
He was waiting. He knew something that, honestly, Rude, I just didn't. I could not have known what was waiting for us. But the thing that I do know is that we've got an awesome analyst desk waiting for us on the other side of a very quick break. So that's the first series gone down. If you wait just a little while longer, you're not just gonna get that killer analyst desk, but another banger of a series after this. We'll see you in a few.
fuck? Sure.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Unified Proving Ground Circuit. We are back here with an interview with the mid laner for Maryville, Get Back. Unfortunately, this is an interview after a loss, but you guys had a very hard-fought series, especially Game 2 stomp, and then the Game 1, y'all had a very, very strong way. How was the comms going throughout such a crazy series like this?
I think the first game, people were over-amped, and then in the second game, people kind of got brought back down to earth a little bit because we lost. I don't even recall it completely, but I feel like we were up and then we threw. And I think that brought people back down to earth, and people were really honed in on Game 2, and then Game 3, you know, different players, a completely different environment in general. But it was definitely a bit up and down. So,
As it can be, but I mean, you did have a fantastic game number 2. Your Zoe, man. That thing was a nightmare fuel. I saw that and I was just like, this is exactly what terrifies me when I lock in solo queue and I see a Zoe on the other side. The sleepy trouble bubbles, man. You don't miss, do you?
you know what? Everyone on that team, I noticed they all dodge the same way. So I think like halfway through the game, I realized that, and then the mid 80 carry dodged the same way every single time, and so I just kept firing the bubble in the same spot, and it got really easy to hit them. So, yeah, they weren't swapping up the dodges, so I felt pretty good that game. It's kind of one of those champs where if you're feeling it, you're feeling it, and if you're not feeling it, then it's terrible. So
you gotta feel the vibe, right? It's gotta be just right. With everything that's been going on, unfortunately, you guys, this does mean elimination for Maryville.
Mhm.
However, we have seen quite a nice ride for Maryville. A lot of people have given you high praise throughout this. How has it felt going into this tournament, going in through the qualifier? How are you guys feeling throughout?
So it's kind of like a conflicting feelings because from the staff's perspective, the main goal for this tournament, they didn't really care if we won or lost because, for example, when we played the first day, we'd never scrimmed yet. We started scrimming like after the first stage. So just before our match, whoever we versed, just before we versed Dinker's team. I think the day before was our first scrim set because everyone had just came around. So we kind of came in blank. The whole point was just to get some games, get used to each other. They, haven't decided who they think of the main roster yet, so they're just flipping people around and giving everyone a run as well. So in all of our series, we played. We mixed and matched whether we won or lost. Like, we won the second game and mixed and matched for the third game, for example. We subbed out jungle AD. So there's like the mixture of, man, it like, no one who's a competitor wants to lose, and that feels like shit. But at the same time, it's like, they've tried to drill into us the main point of this. They didn't really care if we were going to lose, it's about improving. And so they get way more annoyed if we don't execute on the things we've been learning more than actually winning or losing. Like, if we lose a game and you feel like we've taken something from it, they don't care. But if we win a game and just messed around and just stomped people and didn't really accomplish anything, that's on the south end worse. So it's a weird, conflicting feeling. It's definitely felt worse after losses, but I think we should have won, so that's a shame.
Well, I know this isn't the last we're going to see of Maryville, but I mean, you guys did improve throughout this. This has been a squad that's been constantly improving. I want to ask you, Get Back, before we flip away back to our desk, what words do you have for anybody who's cheering Maryville on their way, the collegiate titans out there?
I don't know, anyone who's supporting, thank you, but I think that there's not a lot of supporters. I'm only new here, but what I've gathered is a lot of people, because they normally do win collegiate, I think there's a lot of people who like to lose more, so we'll just get better and upset those people more, I guess, is the moral of the story. So
Sometimes you gotta take if the villain mental's handed to
Yeah.
you. You know, you just rock the coat, right?
I've never been the villains, but I feel like this is the first time I've come somewhere and feel like we're the villains. So
I hear you. Well, we'll have to see if you guys will be able to come back with a vengeance. We'll be looking forward to seeing that. With that being said, thank you, Get Back, for the interview. We are going to send it back over to our desk.
yeah, no problem. Thank you.
And lads, we are back. And EGP, they were able to close out game number 3. They found themselves on some comfort and found a very convincing game number 3 victory here. How are y'all feeling? We're coming in this, and we had a couple moments, especially towards the end of the game, where we were just like, oh gosh, that damage.
Kane, good. Nice.
Yeah. At least from the losers interview, it's nice to see Maryville's perspective. I guess they said they're going into the games wins or losses, and it seems like they haven't been scrimming much, so it won't be the end of them. There's more qualifiers, we'll definitely see more of them, and they'll definitely improve over time. But for EGP, I think it was like 16-3. It was like a 22-minute game. It was like as good as a game as you'd want it to be, you know.
Yeah.
I think just straight out the gate, they set up for level 1. They clearly had a game plan, and it was quite a jungle lead towards the end of the game.
This play is so nuts, man. For Kind Jungle, you know, you see the whole team in your face. You get Flash Nautilus hooked. It's just such a
I
doomer.
think he was trying to ward hop. Like, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. It looked like his character was going to red to like ward hop over, and Nautilus just flashed and said nope, and he had to press his flash key as well, but he did not. And then afterwards, they loop around and they force him out of his chickens as well. So Lee Sin's early game start was completely nullified and just very tragic, honestly. And then honestly, they had a good kill in the bot lane. They ended up honestly, props to Shady. I think he was playing that lane really well early game on the Pike. They got a kill back, but it just sadly wasn't enough. And on this next replay, I forgot what was the next replay is just.
It's the Herald play, man.
Yeah, the Herald play.
Yeah, I mean, when Ziggs is in the game, Herald is like the objective. And if you look from here, like, they're just at Dragon and Herald's at 4K. In my opinion, the Dragon or the Herald's gone if they focus it, and instead they opt in for a turn when the Herald's at 2.6K. And Ori was kind of zoning Vex, and it just kind of goes Fiesta-y, and you know, your Ziggs is bottom. Like, you don't have to do anything. Like, in the worst case here, in my opinion, is literally de-leash the Herald. Like, in the worst case, just get off the Herald, and your Ziggs is farming free plays. Like, he was pinging the bot turret, and instead it just becomes a double kill for Vex. They lose Herald, and Ziggs doesn't even get to complete this bot turret here on this play. It actually gets to live, just barely. So, I would have liked to see... I mean, obviously, it's like new people coming in, so the subs came in, so maybe there was like a lack of communication or coordination, but I see why the Jace jumped on the Graves, you know, like get him off, create some space, but I think the full commit, especially going like all the way to almost the turret, I mean, obviously, they're going to look at that VOD and be like, oh, why'd we do that? That was so silly. We had the Herald, or our Ziggs was farming for free, so I mean, it's just tragic, you know.
I really hate that play. That was such a blunder. I like you said, they already know. So us saying it's not going to help them. But yeah, they really just need to stick to what they were already doing before.
Yeah, and it just gets worse from there. Then it's like Lee Sin, like they were forced to group. They were doing turret trades from top to bottom, and then it was just. Lee Sin was not able to farm his camps, man. He was down like 100 CS at one point, and then this next replay here, we just have like just the amount of control EG had over time. They were able to set up the objective first. Kane's just a very slippery champ here, you know, like maybe they could look for one shots, but the Vex is just sitting in the bush, and look, like they're 4 champions, they can't even cross in. Like Ori's using her ball to check, and then just one tap and just flash in Aphelios. They just press everything, and just everyone gets obliterated. This Vex ult almost catches Pyke, but it's kind of like that's all they needed. They lose their mid turret off this, and they're playing with Ziggs Orianna. And I was saying about this comp is Nautilus has a free hook on every single champion on that team, and when you lose your mid turret as well on top of that, it becomes like a very hard position in the game to come back from, because any hook is a kill. Kayn is just, you guys know what Kayn does. He just goes around in the terrain, and then it's an open map, and it's just free pick'ems for EGP at that point.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way. And I mean, I want to really highlight, we've talked a lot about the Kayn being able to pick people apart. This Vets from Leo was clean inside this game. It's exactly the pick they needed. Like, I was a big fan of this, Matt. We were also talking, like, we were just popping off. Every single one of us were popping off screen with the damage that was coming through.
It was some really sick gameplay. I like the whole thing here from Evil Geniuses. This is a much better look from them, and like Perry looked a lot more comfortable playing a farming champion as well. Kayn's not the only one. Like, yes, he used to be a Kayn one trick on the ranked ladder, but there are other farming champions that I feel like would slot into his comfort a lot easier. And I really liked this gameplay from him quite a lot. He was definitely the star of the show for Game 3. And yeah, big congratulations to EG for making it to playoffs.
And before we go too terribly far, let's go to the caster prediction screen real quick, because I do want to see this as we do get to see these matchups. Look at all these people here. Look at it. There was 3 believers in EG here.
I told you, man. Orbital and RMC are the big brains for today. They got the first 2 right. I think they're going to get the last 2 right as well.
Now, I'll have to keep our eyes on it. That's a possible storyline. They could have that clean sweep coming their way, and it could be a possibility. With that being said, Osama, that does mean it is the end of our time here with you here on our desk. Thank you so much for coming in here a second time here, as you've been a fantastic guest. Like make sure you go and follow him on @HooksLol at Twitter, man. Yeah, go follow this man. What are you up to, man? Are you grinding out solo queue or anything like that?
I've been playing some solo queue a little bit on the side, not too competitively right now. Maybe I'll try to hit a high rank challenger, but it's been a pleasure. This is my second time here. Maybe you guys will see more of me. Just pleasurable experience. Hopefully you guys liked my insight. Hopefully I enjoyed myself here. So hope everyone else did as well.
2 thumbs up from me.
Yeah, I absolutely enjoyed my time here. I learn a lot every time Osama's here. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to send it away from our desk, but we have an interview with Perry, which we are about to flip on over to. So, with that being said, I'm going to hop over to see Perry. Hey there, Perry. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great.
I bet you are, after what was a disgusting Kayn game there, man. You were unevolved for so long, but you still felt oppressive to watch. How was that game?
I mean, 20-minute Kayn form does not feel the greatest. It doesn't look the greatest, but it works the same way. I'm still farming camps. I'm up, 60 CS. It still works the same way. Then I get form, and I'm just running the game from there, so...
I mean, you had a fantastic game. It wasn't even just game number 3. Your game number 1 on Xin Zhao, we were joking about how you were just looking for the next challenger every single time. Like, you were 1v1ing anybody. There was points and times where you were just straight up 1v9, it felt like. How was it? How was the comms like for you? Were you excited? How were you popping off?
It definitely was a different type of playstyle, I guess. Like on Xin Zhao, I normally help my team more, but that game I felt like, this is my time. I have the lead, I have the kills, and I'm going to just show what I can do. And there were some fights where I went a little too deep, I went a little too hard, but overall, I mean, I felt very powerful that game for sure.
I hear you. I mean, yeah, you had 2 very powerful games. Game number 2 was a little bit of a downhill one for you. You played the J4, but unfortunately got caught, as Cubby said, the Gromp is the new Scuttle Crab. So you kind of got caught out there, lost the Gromp, gave the thumbs up emote. How were things inside that game?
I mean, so from the start, the pathing was not the greatest. I didn't make the best choice. Wasted some time trying to look for a level 2 gank. Then I used a smite to waste even more time on my Krugs, so I don't have smite for Grump. And then I missed my EQ. So that's where things just kind of went down. And, you know, we tried to come back that game, but it was a really, really hard comp to play against. So.
Yeah, and I gotta ask, Sketch inside of game number 2 too. We were talking about it on the desk off air. Like Sketch was out there looking to fight as well. Was that a big reason? Was Sketch a big part of that?
I mean, throughout the game, we were trying to split onto a side, get him as much gold as we can. That's pretty much all we could do, and he was calling for it. We were trying to make some good fights around him, and it did happen eventually. So we got some good fights going on there.
Well, your next opponent is 100 Thieves next. How are you feeling going into what a lot of people will look at as a big favorite inside this tournament?
I mean, 100 next is quite dominant. They look like a very, very strong team. But if we can find them, you know, not focus, you know, like we never know what happens. Like I feel like we've been scrimming enough to where we're working pretty well as a team, and we can make some upsets happen. I definitely think it's possible to take them down. So.
Absolutely. And with that being said, any words you have for people that are looking at this squad now, especially after game number 3 being a huge showcase of your team's talents?
I think there's just a lot more to look forward to throughout the season. This is the first tournament, right? Like a lot of people didn't see us as the favorite for this match even, and you know we just have a lot to put out there throughout the split. So.
Proving people wrong. Proved the majority of the caster predictions wrong, just saying. But that being said, Perry, thank you so much for coming on in for this interview. With that being said, we are going to throw over to a break. When we come back, we are going to be going into our second series, which is going to be IMT AOE, taking on Dare. So make sure you do not touch that browser.